And welcome into the Friday edition of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Some of us in Nashville, Tennessee. Hope everybody's doing well this Friday morning. Streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, on Twitch as well. Taking your thoughts all show long on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. 1025. Game 3 coming up tonight between the Predators and the Carolina Hurricanes at Bridgestone Arena. We've got a lot to get to on that front today and taking your thoughts all show long on that front as well. Joe Rexrode, how we doing? What's going on?
Not doing as well as you, Beach Robby.
It's nice, pretty good view this morning.
Yeah, nice pic you tweeted out there.
Got to tell you, hanging out live today in Panama City Beach, Florida, it's a pretty good view for a little playoff action this morning. I'm looking forward to it.
So are you a get in the water guy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Big time get in the water guy. Now, apparently yesterday there was, I guess, a double red flag for riptide, so nobody could get in. So I'm hoping that that's not the case today. But, yeah, if I'm on the beach at some point, I'm getting in the water. Are you?
Yes.
Are you stay out of the water?
Oh, no, big time. No, I'm in the whole time with the kids. Although, it's probably getting to the point where they're too cool to go with me, so I'll be by myself soon. But yeah,
old man by yourself in the water. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, exactly. My sad little inner tube.
Right. Ryan Porth, how are we doing today? I hear on the money line last night you got your lock of the week. Off to a great start this weekend.
Yes, we are. Washington Wizards.
He's fired up, baby.
Big
Porth loves him some Washington Wizards.
Big Russell Westbrook fan after last night.
Yeah, bet you are. Porth's a big
Let's
fan
see if you
of
can
Washington
take that
Wizards.
to weekend winners.
Yeah, weekend winners coming up today at 9:30. By the way, Mark Howard doing weekend winners last week. Do we know how he did? Or is that we're gonna have to wait until later on that?
I will tell you soon. I will tell you soon.
All right. I'm interested to see what happened because
he tried to pick more. Like he kept coming with more picks. He's like, I got another one. Give me the Yankees.
Here's my eighth.
On, Mark.
Here's my eighth pick of the segment.
This is my third lock of the day.
So basically, Mark was very prepared for this, and Robby Stanley usually not prepared at all. But I will say, before last week, I had gone 8-4 combined the previous 2 weeks. So pretty good. Felt good about it.
The funny thing about Mark last Friday morning was that it was almost like he couldn't understand. Like we were only limiting to 5 picks, and he just kept picking more and then putting in more locks. And Joe kept trying to explain it to him. It was funny.
That's pretty awesome.
You know another thing about Mark? Have I said this to you yet, Robby? Do you know that he went to high school with the dude who played Damone in Fast Times at Ridgemont High?
No, I did not.
I think that's maybe the coolest thing I've ever heard.
That is cool. How did this come up in conversation?
I don't know. And, of course, Porth still has no idea what we're talking about. But,
no,
Damone, man. Damone, come on.
I know. That's pretty cool. Look. Well, he went to high school with that. I went to high school with Taylor Swift. Which one's cooler? I'll let you be the judge.
Fair point.
Name dropping.
And I don't know if he was as close friends with Damone, and I totally forgot the actor's name already. He's just Damone for the rest of his life, as you are with Taylor Swift. So
maybe not.
You may have him trumped there.
Maybe so. We'll have to see. Joe, did you go to high school with anybody famous? Do you remember?
No, sure didn't. A lot of nice people, though. I liked them.
Joe Rexrode, the most famous of the high school that you attended.
Yeah, if that's true, oh man.
Game 3 tonight between the Predators and the Carolina Hurricanes. The Predators coming back home at Bridgestone Arena. I expect the crowd to be awesome. I expect the environment to be awesome at Bridgestone Arena tonight. And Joe, the question is, with all that being said, what sort of a difference does that make in the game itself? The Predators down 0-2 heading into this game 3. What are your initial expectations for this game? And as we talk about the environment that we saw in Carolina and kind of fast forward to what that's going to look like tonight at Bridgestone Arena, how big of an impact do you think that can have on the Predators and the game itself when it boils down to what we see on the ice?
Well, I think it'll have an impact for sure. I mean, sometimes I think we can overstate what home crowds mean. And we've talked about this, about in hockey, does it directly, impact the action? I mean, I think in basketball and football, you see it sometimes. Obviously we talk about snap counts and silent counts and whatever. I mean, I think that can have an impact. And I just feel like in basketball, it's like a more condensed playing surface, and I've seen that so many times where it's clearly a factor. When these guys are playing hockey, does it matter what's going on around them? I don't think so. But I do think that there's going to be energy for the Predators coming right out. So expectations, one, would be just flying around to start. Now, have there been any points in this or any other series where people aren't flying around? No, but I think there's a little bit extra you can find sometimes, and I think we've seen it before in this building in the postseason. And I would expect tonight with 12,000 plus that they're going to notice it. They're going to feel it. I mean, they haven't had that many in the building in a long time.
Yeah, I think they're going to feel it as well. And I got to thinking about this yesterday, just in terms of what the expectations are. You're down 0-2. So there's a level of desperation that's going to have to be there anyway. And I think we'll see that from the Predators. What sort of a difference that's going to make on the ice? I think you could see that especially early on in the game when you're coming back home. You're down 0-2. The first 5-10 minutes of the game. I mean, we hear opposing teams talk about that all the time at Bridgestone Arena. I'm trying to weather that storm through the first 10 minutes. Obviously, that's not really been the case this year with the crowd situation being what it is. I think tonight could be the first opportunity for that to actually be the case this year. So I expect the beginning part of this game, the Predators, to generate some pressure. But, Joe, I think it's important not only to generate some pressure in the first part of this game, the first 10, 15 minutes, you've got to find a way to convert. Because if you get through the first 10, 15 minutes, you get some chances, you're not able to score. And more importantly, if you get some power plays and you're not able to convert, I think all the energy that you've created, all the momentum that could be created by a fast start just totally gets sapped away because the crowd, everybody watching, I think to some degree the players on the ice too are going to be like, all right, here we go again on the power play. We can't get anything done, and Carolina's on a 2-on-1 going back the other way shorthanded. Like, I think it's really important tonight for them to come out and not only play well early and generate momentum, but you got to find a way to break through offensively. And Joe is already on mute. We were 8 minutes into the show.
Unbelievable.
All right.
Yes. I've regressed so much. I mean, I have a nice haircut, but it doesn't matter when I screw up the mute button that much. I think that you're right. You got to finish. Last year's team especially seems like that. How many times at home did they take it to the opponent for 10 minutes and then give up like the first shot or just have, some mishap and they're down 1-0. I think that's all important. I think it's also important to not be so frenzied that you're going to the box yourself a lot early in this game. I mean, like Eric Halla's penalty. I think we talked about that yesterday. That was really stupid. Yeah. To start game 2. Like, you're not helping your team. So that's another thing. You got to have that controlled rage and not just totally let it overflow.
Let's go to our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Ben text again on the text line says the Preds win 4-2 or they're going to lose 5-1. So not much wiggle room there for Ben. Either they're going to win 4-2 or they're going to get destroyed 5-1 in this game.
Okay, wait. Now is this our Ben doom and gloomer extraordinary?
Yes, I believe so. I believe so.
Yeah, okay.
There is only one Ben on our text line, and it is the doom and gloom Ben.
Surely there's more than one Ben.
He is the only Ben.
Okay. I will say this: the text line that we've had the last couple of days have been some doozies. I've enjoyed it for the most part. I'm hoping that we get some more of that today on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. But the doom and gloom portion of the text line has grown by leaps and bounds the last couple of days. That's for sure.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. And I can say that too on like comments on stories on The Athletic. There's a little bit of the back and forth from the fan base too. A little bit of some people still saying, "Hey, I've enjoyed this team. Yeah, I still think this team, is not out of it." And Some people, toxic trash dog water. Three of
All
our
three.
favorite. By the way, Jared and Caroline actually used dog water. I was in the car with Brennan yesterday, and I said, Brennan, I'm like, Brennan, you are influencing media with your ridiculous lingo. Congratulations, young man. I mean, it is kind of a good word. It's pretty gross, man. Dog water. It's a pretty good word for something that's not good.
I mean, it really does. It creates a great mental image of somebody just riding the struggle bus. So congratulations to Brennan for maybe changing the landscape of sports radio and media as we know it.
Yes. Graduating from 8th grade and doing that. Good job.
Absolutely.
Soon enough, we'll have a segment called Dog Water.
Yes.
And we'll just go through everything that is dog water.
Your weekend dog water report. Maybe we'll work on that coming up on Monday here on Robby and Rexrode.
We may have a lot to add to it soon.
Well, we could. We absolutely could. We are off and running today here on Robby and Rexrode, taking your thoughts all show long on the Predators on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. What do the Predators have to do to get back into the series? Let us know on our text line. And when we come back, could tonight be the last stand for the core group of this Predators team that's been together for so long now? We'll get to that coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
a lot of the way these things work is that there's guys that are in your lineup or supposed to be in your lineup, every night. And, there's other players that come in, for different reasons. It could be injuries. It could be roles and things like that. But usually on every team, there's some guys in there that you're expecting as an organization to be in your lineup every night, drive the way you play, perform at a high level, and, play their best when it matters the most. And, that's what we need. That's how you win in the play. In the regular season, we've done some really good things. We've had a lot of injuries. I think you look at the depth that we've had, the contributions we've had throughout our team during that time. It's a big reason why we're in the playoffs. But now that we're here, we're going to need our depth. And, there's a lot of discussion about lineup changes and who comes in and who comes out. But there are guys that I'm sure you expect, watching the team and following the team, that you're expecting these guys to be big-time players in big-time games and drive the team, and that's the expectation.
That was Predators head coach John Hines before Game 2, highlighting the importance of their core group of players, their star players, to be the one that leads the way for the Predators here in this series against Carolina. And right now, the Predators in a hole for their star players to dig themselves out of, down 0-2 against the Carolina Hurricanes, coming back home. Game 3 tonight at Bridgestone Arena. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. And Joe, it's interesting to kind of think about this spot the Predators are in right now. We know the situation. They've got to win 4 out of the next 5 in order to get past Carolina and advance through this round. Obviously, that's a very tall task. They've beaten Carolina 2 times this year, and really in one game that I guess you could argue was meaningful. The second game was very meaningful to the Predators, given who was in net and the situation there, but Carolina, not a whole lot to play for in that game. So this is an uphill climb for the Predators heading into this game, and it's interesting to think about from this standpoint if things don't go well in Game 3 and in Game 4, and even if you win a couple and you find a way to be out in 5 or 6 games in this series, could this be the last stand for this core group of players who have been together for so long now? And by the core group, I mean, you're talking about guys like Victor Arvidsson and Ryan Ellis and Matthias Ekholm, Philip Forsberg, Ryan Johansson, Matt Duchene been added to that core now as a really important player that signed an $8 million per year contract. I mean, there's a lot of guys that have been a part of this for a long time or have been elevated into extremely important roles based on the salary that they're paid. And Joe, to me, it feels like, if things don't go well in this series and you're still looking ahead towards the future with the expansion draft coming up and also with some moves that I think just inevitably could be made in the offseason, it does kind of feel like this could be the last stand for this core group as we know it that's largely been kept together for the last 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah, well, and I know that we've talked about this obviously this year. We're talking about specific members of that core group, possibly being on their way out. I don't know what to what extent this group can or would be broken up, but I think to some extent, and maybe that would be the case, unless there was some incredible run here. But it's just the fact is, you lose this game tonight and you're not winning the series. I mean, look, I don't think there's too much optimism about this team winning the series anyway.
Right.
And even if they win tonight, I'm probably not going to flip around and say, you know what? I think they're winning 3 more. But you win tonight and you keep it alive. And now you're sitting there with 1 game to tie it. So you lose tonight, all the words will be empty. I mean, it's just, we know what it is. 3-0 is 3-0. And I think then the more of the thoughts will shift to like, okay, what is going to happen here? Because something serious and significant and dramatic has to happen.
I would agree. Like, as good as you feel about some of these younger players who have come in and they've played really important roles for this group coming down the stretch, like outside of a couple of guys of this core group, obviously your Yossi's and your Ellis's to some degree and your Ekholms, they've played big roles in this. But like, how big of a role has a Victor Arvidsson played in this turnaround? I would argue not a huge role in this turnaround that we've seen. How big of a role has a Ryan Johansson played in this turnaround that we've seen with the Predators? He's been okay, but I mean, the production, all it takes is looking at the basic stats that you're judging him on in terms of what he's getting paid. It's not been all that great. Matt Duchene was hurt for a lot of it. His goal production, his point production has not been where you need it to be. So it does feel like if things don't turn around in this series and you're out in the first round, there are going to be some changes this offseason. Like I can't envision, and even with the expansion draft aside, I would assume there will be some changes this offseason. You've got to have some upward mobility as well for your younger players. And I said it yesterday on the show, like I fully expect Philip Tomasino to be a part of this group next year and to be a part of this team as they move forward. I fully expect Rem Pitlick to be a part of this group next year and to be a part of this team as they move forward. Obviously, Tanner Jeannot and Matthew Olivier, Alex Carrier, all these guys that you felt good about this year that have come in and made a name for themselves. I mean, it's time to start to allow for some upward mobility in the lineup for some of these guys. And in order to do that, some of these veteran guys that have been there for a long time are going to have to go, and they're going to have to be shifted around. So unless this group that has been underperforming for a while in terms of what they're paid and what they're expected to bring to the table, unless they can find a way to dig deep in this series and dig themselves out of this hole, I don't know how, if you're David Poile and the Predators, you can't take a look at this core group and come to the conclusion that it needs to be addressed. Like, it needs to be shaken up to some degree as they move into the offseason. So this is, if you're a part of this group and you're wanting to keep this thing together, like they've made clear for the last few years, and they love the guys in that room, this is gut check time. And it's probably too late at this point, just based on what we've seen out of Carolina and based on the lack of production that we've seen from a lot of these guys in the core group for the last 2 years. But this does kind of feel like if there's ever a time to dig deep and try to dig yourself out of it, it's now for this core group of players.
Yeah, and I think there certainly are. I think you're right on some of those young guys coming up, certainly. Tomasino, it seems right. And it's early still, but it seems like, excuse me, that he would have a real opportunity. A guy like, I think there's some guys who have cemented themselves this year. You start with Saros.
Yeah.
Again, it was not long ago. We were wondering aloud on this show, okay, so maybe they sign him, but do they go get someone else if Pecorino retires? Do you feel good about him as your guy, at least for the next few years? And now, I don't think there's any doubt. And that's one thing too that's going to complicate things for David Poile, although I don't think there's any option, but he's going to have to pay him. He's going to have to pay him a lot more than $1.5 million. So you take that off your bottom line too. I think Carrier is a guy who has been one of the stories. Tolvanen has been for sure, but Carrier just continues to impress me.
Yeah.
And it's pretty amazing given sort of the and this is where you can have optimism, given sort of the book on him even going into this year, and look at what he is now. It's possible that this can happen. But then what about Fabro? There's one of those guys, young core, who I think his future is interesting.
Let's go to our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Got a texture that says, just saying, it's really simple. They have to win ugly to get back in this series. And if the core of this group can't contribute considerably to make this series competitive, then something seriously has to change as they move forward here. So texter pointing out that they have to win ugly to come back in this series. Heidi from Dixon saying, this core had me tricked for a long time. Sometimes you got to empty the dog water and refresh. So well done, Heidi. We like that. Officer Watson from Clarksville texting in, start a lineup that is not trash with garbage Goodbranson. Am I right, Robby? So we've worked so far on the show today, Joe, trash and dog water into the text line. Our listeners are on one today. I like it.
Yeah, that was very, very good usage of dog water, Heidi. And man, poor Goodbranson. There can't be a show in the history of sports talk that has ripped Goodbranson more than this one. My goodness.
Oh, I'm sure there's one in Pittsburgh that has, because that city does not like Eric Goodbranson. I mean, they think Eric Branson is toxic.
Well, maybe we should see if we can find some audio of him being ripped there. We can do it just a whole collage.
Yes.
The poor guy.
I'm sure
he comes
if we
over in a trade, and
I'm sure if we go through the archives of Mark Madden in Pittsburgh, we'll be able to find something trashing Goodbranson.
I feel like I've started a movement here in Nashville with Eric Goodbranson. Sorry. Again, as I said repeatedly on the show, Joe, I'm sure he's a great guy.
Robby's vibing and Robby's hating Goodbranson.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Ron texting in, the only way the Predators have a chance is if Sebastian Aho somehow gets injured, and then maybe I'll give the Predators a chance to win this series. I don't know if that's a good formula to rely on at that point.
Yeah, they got other guys, although he's been awfully good. And, Slavin, what's his status? I mean, that is important, I think, moving forward in this series. I get another question on this whole thing with, last stand. It's now or never, key guys. I mean, that Hines quote said it right there. Big time players, big time games, got to have it. But let's say they win 2. Let's say they lose this series in 6. Like, does that? Yeah, and it's like 4. Like, it's 4 really close games. They win 2 of them. They're very competitive. They go down in 6. Does that change anything?
I mean, it doesn't for me. Could it for David Poile? Maybe so. I mean, I think the perspective on this team has shifted a little bit from some. Now, I'm not quite there yet. Like, this is still supposed to be a team, and I've talked about this many times, with the contracts that they have, that's supposed to be competing for a Stanley Cup. And it's difficult for me to separate that part of the conversation when we're having conversations about the future. So I think for some it could change, but to me, like, the trajectory is still roughly the same. I mean, it's a first round exit at that point. So if it's a first round exit, like, how close are you really to competing for a Stanley Cup? Like, I think that's a serious question to ask moving forward.
Well, and I think the question is also, you do have to step back, look at your top players. Yes, what they make, but just, every team has top players, right? I mean, every team has guys, they're top 6 forwards, they're top 4 defensemen, like your core group of players, and compare them to the best groups around the league. I mean, at this point, there's no comparison. And again, this run, which has been great, has been largely on some young guys coming in. I mean, you feel good about, like, Olivier, Trennan, Jeannot. You feel good about those guys moving forward, but there are limitations there, right? I mean, those guys are going to be about where they are now, which is still an important part of your lineup. But we know, and I mean, in this league, in this sport, you have to have some, star power. You don't have to have the McDavid, the Crosby, the Ovechkin, but you got to have at least, look at the Carolina lineup. I mean, what do they have? 5,
the
6,
Aho, yeah.
Yeah, 5, 6 guys with more goals than anybody in the Preds have. I mean, your top guys right now simply are not matching up to the best groups around the league.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. And if that's the case, it's going to be very difficult to compete for a Stanley Cup as you move forward. So that's what you've got to weigh if you're David Poile and the Predators hockey operations staff as well. When we come back, outside of UC Saros, who is the most important player for the Predators tonight to turn this thing around and get back into the series? We'll discuss that coming up next. Right now, though, got to tell you about my friends at the FanDuel Sportsbook. The NBA play-in tournament gives some teams one last shot to make the playoffs, but everyone can bet this round risk-free on FanDuel Sportsbook, and it doesn't matter if you're new to FanDuel or if you already have an account. FanDuel has teamed up with basketball legends Charles Barkley and Kenny Smith to make sure you'll get your money back if you don't win. That's any user, any bet type, any game. The play-in tournament been pretty awesome so far. I had my skepticisms at first, but I've been very impressed by what I've seen in the NBA play-in tournament. It's going down May the 18th through the 21st, and FanDuel just made it even more exciting. It's all part of FanDuel's Play-In Palooza. So if you already have a sportsbook account, just open the app and opt in to claim your risk-free bet. And if you're new to FanDuel, sign up with promo code ROB to get your first risk-free bet up to $1,000 exclusively on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. You must be 21 and older and present in Tennessee. Refund issued is non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 7 days. New user risk-free bet for first real money wager only, and refund issued is non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Got a gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porter with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Looking ahead to Game 3 between the Nashville Predators and the Carolina Hurricanes. Taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. David on the text line says, the Preds have had their backs against the wall all year. They will deliver at home. Joe, there is something to that. I mean, they have been into, obviously, some adverse situations this year. Their backs have been against the wall, and they found a way to respond. They found a way to come out and play well at times during that run. We saw it the last couple of months where they won 20 out of the last 28 games. Do you think that factors in at all when it comes to this playoff series in terms of you're down 0-2, you're coming back home, like the players in the locker room are not stupid. They know they have to win this game if they've got any chance whatsoever to win this series. Do you think the experiences that they had in the regular season and how much they had to dig their way out of the hole that they had in the first half of the year, do you think that factors into this equation at all, into this playoff series?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something there. I mean, I think there's something to be said for what they've had to do, how they've had to do it, how they'll have to do it tonight. I mean, I think they match up, and they've tried to do it, but I do think that a couple things. One, there's more energy. You're going to have that energy. Again, you got to control it. You got to not let it make for a parade to the box. Although you might even prefer to be shorthanded than on the power play at this point in this series. But in all seriousness, you can't let it get out of control. But I also think, just being home, you can control the matchups a little bit. I think that's part of it. Look, they've had to fight back, and I think it can help them. I expect them to be absolutely, at peak intensity, focus, all that stuff. Just like you'd expect any team in this tournament down 2-0 to be. But I do think there's something to what this team has done. My question is how much, to what extent is Carolina's just excellence in their heads? Because I do think that's something too. Like I heard Jared yesterday talking about the Preds were scared. And again, I mean, I think that's overstating things. I don't think anybody's out there scared, but I do think that some of their lack of execution and just a little bit off, a little bit rushed, maybe a double clutch here from Duchesne, whatever it is. I think some of that you can probably trace to the opponent being so good that they've lost some confidence and they've lost a little bit of poise, maybe. So that's got to be recaptured.
Oh, I think it's a good point. And I think sometimes what happens when you have that happen, and then when you factor in on the power play that you're struggling, you're trying to look for that perfect shot at times rather than just letting the thing go and shooting the puck. We see that all the time of you hold on that extra second just to try to put it, top corner of the goal. And that extra second you hold on to the puck, Nedeljkovic slides over and the window that you had is gone. I do think there is an effect that going up against a good team, especially a good defensive team like Carolina, can have on you. I don't know how often that's been the case with the Predators in this series, but I think the more and more that you build throughout a series and the less and less success that you have offensively, I think that starts to become a thing. And that's something, if you're the Predators, you've got to be wary of that heading into Game 3. So speaking of Game 3, look, we know this about UC Saros. He is going to be the most important guy for the Predators in this series. But, Joe, as you identify the rest of this lineup and what it's going to take for the Predators to get back in this series, who is the most important player outside of UC Saros that has to play well for the Predators to get back in this thing?
There's a lot of great options here. A lot of great options of people who need to play well and people who aren't and who haven't played well. I would point to Ryan Johansson. And yes, being an absolute bull around the net, creating, sustaining pressure and just being what we know he can be as a number one center. And also, his responsibility in the last game a couple times, that puck got behind him when it probably shouldn't have. And so, I mean, he's got to be great 200 feet all night and dominant and physical like he can be. And I think that would be the biggest development. I'm very tempted to say Forsberg just because he's capable of coming in, giving you a couple goals and just swinging a game, with what he can do individually. But I'm going to go with Johansson.
I was going to go with Johansson too, from a couple of different standpoints. Number one, offensively, he's just, when he's on, it makes such a big difference, not only with him, but with whoever he's playing with. The whole line just becomes incredibly dangerous. And I don't know if it's going to be Victor Arvidsson moving forward or not. I'm very interested to see what this lineup's going to look like tonight. in game 3 and what sort of shuffling John Hines does, because I do think even if you go with the same players, maybe some shuffling is involved in terms of the ways you construct your lines at this point. But not only offensively, but going up against Jordan Stahl and trying to limit his effectiveness in this series. Obviously, game 1, Stahl was awesome. I thought they did a much better job in game 2 against Jordan Stahl. But do you stick with that matchup if you're John Hines at home? Would you like to get Johansson's line out there matched up against somebody else as often as you can? Having last change is a big deal in the playoffs, and it's not the be all end all. We know that it doesn't necessarily determine whether or not you're going to win a game. But if you're a coach and you don't like Johansson being matched up against Jordan Stahl, you can try to move away from that at Bridgestone Arena if you want to. His success, I think, is so important to the overall success of this team. Like, to your point, heading into the series, I think for the most part what you're going to get out of Roman Josi. It was a bad game 1 from Roman Josi. He responded very well in game 2. If I'm John Hines, if you're going with the same D pairs tonight, like I'm not moving Josi and Ellis. They're staying apart to me. Josi and Carrier I thought looked really good. Ekholm and Ellis looked pretty good together for the most part too. So I'm leaving those 4 together. And if you want to make some changes to the bottom pairing, by all means, go ahead and do that. But I just think if Ryan Johansson is not going with this group, it's just too hard. Like their offense, there's not enough there if he's not going and not only generating himself, but making his line mates better as well.
So what you're saying is that Ryan Johansson is an X factor tonight.
Sure. That's what we'll go with, Porth. I know you've been waiting on that one. As soon as I started talking about Johansson, I knew you were going to say that.
The most important player, I think, wouldn't that be the A factor?
Sure.
Tell me, Porth.
So does that mean Harry Zolnacek was the least important player, and that's why they called him the Z factor?
Well, maybe so.
Okay. Sure. I didn't know that, but that's. I mean, that's. I hope someone did. I don't remember that, but that's a neat line.
They absolutely called him the Z factor.
They did, yeah.
Look, I was just trying to spell his name right, man. Z.
Yes.
Hey, ready? ZOLNIERCZYK. Boom.
Nailed it. You'll never forget how to spell Harry Zolnachuk's name. ESPN 94.9 is the official English radio home of the Nashville Soccer Club. Be listening in on Sunday as Nashville SC takes on Austin FC at Nissan Stadium. Pre-game begins at 7:45. Watch the match as it starts at 8 o'clock as well. Nashville SC taking on Austin FC. By the way, having Nashville SC Pick to Click coming up later in the show, brought to you by Camarena Tequila as well. So we'll have that opportunity coming up at 9:45. We'll continue the discussion on the Predators when we come back. Got some of your texts to get to on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025, The Game. Go to theGameNashville.com to check out Nashville's best deals. This week it's buy one, get one free tickets to Beach Bend Park and Splash Lagoon. Beach Bend Park is your ticket to summer fun. Double your fun and double your savings with buy one, get one admission. 2 parks, 2 tickets for the price of one. Get yours now at theGameNashville.com. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. Taking your thoughts on the Predators on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. JD texting in says, do you think we may see Johansson, Forsberg, and Duchesne together in this game? Joe, what do you think of that possibility? If you're John Hines, do you entertain that heading into Game 3, sliding Duchesne up, maybe moving Arvidsson down in the lineup at that point?
Yeah, I would. I mean, he did get more ice time in Game 2. I think I don't know why there's music playing in my headphones right now. What was that?
I don't
Sorry.
know.
That's okay. That was weird.
Squirrel.
A website, the ESPN website just started playing the song from There's Something About Mary. All right. Anyway, I think there's a case to be made. There's also if you do that, one thing we haven't talked about with the whole Duchesne up with those guys thing is defensively.
Yeah.
Do they, because obviously that's probably going to put him, now you can mix and match, and Hines has done that in these games, but that's probably going to put him in some situations where you're counting on him a lot. But then again, you're also doing that with Arvidsson. Hey, look, Duchesne up, Arvidsson down. Yes. Arvidsson out. I think it's possible too. I mean, I know that's going to sound crazy to some people, but I think, if he's not bringing, or maybe not capable right at this moment of bringing what he does best, I think you could make the case that there are other people who could do more with that spot.
I agree. Honestly, right now, based on what I've seen out of Arvidsson the first couple of games, you can't tell me Rocco Grimaldi couldn't come in and be more effective than Arvidsson's been. That's just the speed game right now between the two of them is really not even close. And it used to be when Rocco first got here, that's what you compared him to, was Victor Arvidsson and the speed that he brings to the table. Right now, Victor Arvidsson doesn't feel like he's even in the same stratosphere as Rocco Grimaldi in the speed. So I agree. I think that does sound crazy to some people, but I think there's a chance that Arvidsson's not in there tonight. I really do.
I think I'd still be surprised if that happened, but it's certainly something to consider. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities.
Yeah.
We were just talking about Duchesne sitting the other day, and I thought, that could have been on the table depending how Game 2 went. I actually think it went more in the way of, okay, you've got to have his skill and his threat in the lineup. As long as he's doing what you need him to do, to at least, to enough of an extent to keep him on, keep him in the lineup.
Go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jeff from Cottontown texting in. To me, the Predators are a stagnant franchise right now. So in my opinion, everybody on the roster is expendable for the right deal. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. And also, Joe, did you say Stillman overstated something? Imagine that. Ha, 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 ha. There you go.
Stillman spent a lot of time ripping my question to John Hines, but that's okay. I knew it was going to happen.
Let's go back to the text
He did
line.
He did at least ask Crispy about ripping media, so I appreciate that.
There you
We'll
go.
have Crispy on later. He can tell me what an idiot I am.
We're looking forward to that coming up at 8:30 today here on the program. Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Got a texture that says, can a team decline a power play? Can we just say we don't want an extra man and continue to play 5-on-5? Maybe allow the player that committed the penalty to still go to the box, but allow the other team to send someone else out in their place. I don't think so. I don't think you could do that.
Did
in the
that
NHL.
person? Did that
I don't think
person?
Predators would do that.
Did that person send that text in 2019?
Maybe
Yeah,
so.
we talked about that a lot back then, for sure. Way too much talk about that in this recent history of this franchise.
Do we think I'm hoping tonight, just for the sake of my viewing experience, that the game is a little bit more 5-on-5? Like, look, I like power plays, and watching power plays are fun, but 7 on one side, the amount of penalties that have been called in this series so far, I think we've gotten our fair share. I'd be cool with them just letting them play tonight. Let's go 5-on-5 and do that as much as possible in this game. That's what I'm hoping for anyway.
I agree. You know, what's interesting is it's not like, I mean, most of these aren't, oh, let's settle it all down calls, like a bunch of roughing, you know? I mean, there's some of that, but it has been, I mean, they've had a couple of trippings that I think you could probably go either way with, you know? But some of it is like stuff you have to call because a player's compromised and they grab or trip, you know? So, I mean, I'm with you, though. I would like to see more 5-on-5. It's also going to be interesting to see if the chippiness and all that stuff ratchets up a level tonight. I mean, game 11 between these teams.
Yes,
that's gonna do it. And you can see it out there with some of these guys.
Ryan Porth, is tonight the night that we see Dante Fabro back in the lineup? And if you're John Hines, kind of viewing the matchups that we've seen so far, the physicality that we thought maybe was an edge for the Predators. So far, that's not been the case in this series. Would tonight be the night that Fabro goes back in if you were John Hines?
I sure hope so. I mean, Fabro, I understand that he has been pretty up and down in the last couple of years, but I would much rather see what Fabro can do on that third pair after what we've seen from Eric Goodbranson or Ben Harper in either of the first two games.
I agree. I hope he's back in there. Look, I'll say this once again the other night. I came away pretty impressed from Matt Benning. Like, I don't know at this point how you take Matt Benning out of the lineup. So, again, that creates a problem. What they did the other night, they moved Goodbranson over to the left. That didn't work any better than having Goodbranson over to the right. So, to me, that's just not a sustainable formula moving forward. Now, maybe you feel better about Goodbranson being in there because you're at home and you can control the matchups a little bit more. But, like, at some point, Fabro's got to get in this series, right? Like, we can't go through this entire series and your first-round pick, your guy that started out as a top 4 defenseman this year, like, he can't be scratched the whole time, right?
Yeah, I would guess not. But, you know, I mean, look, Hines has a different view on Goodbranson than this show, especially certain members of this show.
I think that's clear.
But I think it's worth a look for sure. What we don't know is some of these guys. I mean, obviously Yarncroke misses. Is he going to be back in tonight? Is he healthy enough? I think if he is healthy enough, he will be back in. You know, Tolvanen, is he in tonight? And how much of Tolvanen struggles are like a lingering thing with the injury or whatever? I mean, we don't know the exact physical status of all these guys, and that can be a factor in that too. But if he's healthy enough to go, I would think that would get some strong consideration.
Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Paul texting in, Robby, if we get drilled at home this weekend, will you keep having the Vibin t-shirt profile pic? I'm having a hard time vibing myself with this power play. I don't know, Joe. Like, if they lose game 3 tonight, should I change up the Twitter profile pic of my beautiful t-shirt, or should I just leave it and roll with it for the rest of this season?
Hell no, you don't change that. Vibing is a lifestyle, man.
That's right.
Vibing is vibing. That's living. Livin, living. Do not change that ever.
You're exactly right. I considered Paul's advice for a second, and you've totally talked me out of it. So I appreciate that. We're going to keep the vibing going here on Twitter, and hopefully that leads to a turnaround tonight for the Predators in Game 3 at Bridgestone Arena. We've got a lot more to get to with the Predators coming up throughout the show today. Taking your thoughts on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. When we come back, we're going to switch gears for a little bit. The Julio Jones story not going away when it comes to the Tennessee Titans, and a very prominent Titan added some fuel to the fire yesterday as well. We'll talk about that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode live from the wholesaling studios, powered by RumbleOn.com here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in hour number 2 of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. got a lot to get to today on the show. Taking your thoughts on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Turron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, will join us at 7:30. Call your shot Friday coming up at 7:45 as well. So we need your bold predictions in the world of sports. And Joe, one of the things that we're going to get to with TD as well is the Julio Jones story that we talked about a little bit yesterday here on the show that's not seeming to go away regarding the Tennessee Titans. And Derrick Henry adding a little bit more fuel to the fire yesterday on Twitter, saying over the top of a tweet from Bleacher Report Gridiron, comment what team would be the most dangerous with Julio. Derrick Henry's response was Titan TF up on Twitter. So obviously Julio Jones, an Alabama guy. Derrick Henry, an Alabama guy. Julio Jones, a very good player. We know that Derrick Henry would love to have Julio Jones on the team here with the Tennessee Titans, but also a very interesting idea, trade proposal, and a connection thrown out this morning on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin by Mike Tannenbaum, who, of course, is a former NFL general manager, now works for ESPN as well, regarding Julio Jones and the Tennessee Titans. Here's what Mike Tannenbaum had to say this morning on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin.
How likely is it that the Falcons try to navigate a trade for Julio Jones?
Yeah, I think a trade is likely. I think the Rams, Baltimore, and Tennessee. But, boy, Tennessee makes a lot of sense for a number of reasons. They're in a win-now mode. Their quarterback's over 30. They lost a really good receiver in Corey Davis. Julio Jones would come there with A.J. Brown and make them immeasurably better. Arthur Smith, the current head coach of the Falcons, was the offensive coordinator of Tennessee. He knows that roster well. Maybe it's a player like a Rashad Evans, a good young linebacker, and a second-round pick. Maybe that's a win-win. So I think at this point, the fact that this story is still out there tells me that there's probably something to it. Julio Jones, he's obviously much closer to the end than the beginning. Terry Fontenot, the new GM of the Saints, who's the GM of the Falcons. Arthur Smith, new head coach. If you're going to do something like this, you do it in year one. So to me, this really makes sense that after June 1st, he could get moved.
So, Joe, what do you think of those comments there by Mike Tannenbaum, the tweet yesterday from Derrick Henry regarding Julio Jones to the Titans? And what do you make of what Tannenbaum threw out there of Rashaan Evans and a second-round pick in order to acquire the services of Julio Jones?
Well, look, here's what I'll say from my perspective. You know, the other day I was like, forget it. It's not happening. Just move on. I'm not there anymore. And so I'm not reporting anything. Okay. I'm not saying I've got any information that they are definitely pushing to make this trade, but there's some stuff floating around that makes me think it's at least worth considering the possibility. And look, Tannenbaum made some good points there. I mean, I think certainly the Arthur Smith connection makes these conversations natural. I don't think his proposal. So here's one thing. I've been told about the Falcons is like positions of need. Obviously, if you move Julio Jones, you would be looking at a receiver.
Yep.
They have a need for a running back. Well, okay. The Titans aren't going to trade their main running back for sure. Edge and corner. So I actually came up with our Falcons writer, Tori McElhenney, last night and I think that'll run sometime today, with a proposal along those lines. So what has to happen, obviously, but think about the money. So if the Titans are around, right now, they've signed some of their rookies. They're around $3.5 million in cap space, okay? So you're talking about a $15 million cap hit. Now, as Jeff Schultz, colleague, he really kind of broke this yesterday in terms of the Falcons really keenly interested in making a deal happen with somebody. As he pointed out, there certainly could be a possibility. It doesn't happen much in the NFL. It happens all the time in baseball, but the possibility of a trading team saying, yeah, but you got to eat $5 million of that $15 million, whatever, something like that. But I mean, the Titans, to make it work, if they do send veterans back, the Falcons would be able to take a few million back. So, I mean, I think it makes more sense to send veterans back than draft capital. Who would it be? You know, that would be, if you're thinking in terms of those positions of need I just mentioned, you know, who would it be? I mean, the Titans just obviously completely gutted their secondary and started over there. You could look, I mean, how crazy would it be if the Titans moved some of their brand new free agent signings for Julio Jones? You know, I mean, because that's like the guy that came to mind because they drafted Caleb Farley, because they drafted Elijah Molden, is Janoris Jenkins. You know, would the Falcons be interested in him and that almost $5 million cap hit, which, of course, then the Titans wouldn't have it all cleared. They still have to sign some of their rookies. I mean, they would have to figure something else out. I know, restructure. I mean, it's so easy. Just restructure everything and create the money. I don't think John Robinson's a big kick the can guy, because look at so many of these teams that are in cap hell now because they've done that stuff. But maybe there could be one more cut as well. If let's say you traded a couple of veterans, a pick, then you've created a fair amount of cap space, but you would have to make another cut. I mean, I think you brought up the point, Robby, yesterday about the idea that, okay, what about one of these off? I mean, do you now all of a sudden you cut Saffold? I mean, what would you prefer, Titans fans? I'm sure a lot of people would say offensive guard. Give me the receiver, But again, 32 years old, increasingly banged up, diminishing to some extent, still really good. I mean, I don't disagree with what Tannenbaum said. The guy is still very talented, and it is enticing to think about Henry, A.J. Brown, Julio Jones in an offense. I mean, like Ryan Tannehill right now is curled up in a ball in excitement on the floor somewhere, I'm sure, if he's not doing those Derrick Henry workouts.
Yes.
So, but like Roger Saffold, I mean, that's who comes to mind. Big cap hit. You can slide an Aaron Brewer in there, I guess. That's a big difference, though, man, with that offensive line and the way they want to play. I think it would have to be something like that to make it feasible.
Well, it could be, but from Atlanta's perspective, if I'm the Falcons, how interested would I be in getting back some of these veteran players? How interested would I be at getting, 33-year-old Janoris Jenkins back from the Titans? To me, I'm trying to get as much draft capital as humanly possible. So if you're the Titans, I think that's probably the route you may end up having to go. Are you comfortable with that? Are you comfortable giving up a lot of draft capital for a 32-year-old receiver, albeit an excellent 32-year-old receiver, but a 32-year-old receiver that started to show signs of decline and started to show signs of having some injuries that have creeped into his game as well? To your point, it's the balance of that while also factoring in, all right, what could your offense look like if you've got A.J. Brown on one side, Julio Jones on the other side, and Derrick Henry in the backfield? I start to care way less about who the tight end is when that's the case in my mind.
Right, but see, to your point on the draft picks, I don't think you can do it if you aren't sending money back. I don't think so. But yeah, I mean, you may be right. I mean, are the Falcons ooh, Janoris? Here's another one I'll throw at you, and it's not a big number. But it would just, again, it's hilarious along the same lines as Jenkins. What about Josh Reynolds? What about Darrington Evans? These are not, you're not sending a ton of money back with them. Reynolds has a $1.75 million cap hit this year. Darrington Evans is on a third-round pick rookie deal, making $1 million. Excuse me. Look, if the Rashaan Evans thing could work out, if they would want him,
yeah.
I mean, that's okay. Now let's talk. That's 3.7 mil on the cap hit there. That makes a dent. But I don't think that's what they're looking for. But you can't. I don't think if you're the Titans, some of these other teams you can. But I don't think if you're the Titans, you could make this deal. Just take out that you don't want to give up draft capital. I don't think you can make it work if you aren't sending money back to them.
So Titans fans, let's throw this question to you. If the money could work and you could make that work and you knew you were getting Julio Jones back in return for the Falcons, what would you be willing to give up on this roster? Let us know on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. We'll discuss it next here on Robby and Rexrode, ESPN 1025, The Game.
This hour of Robby and Rexrode is brought to you by Train. Get a great deal this spring on a new Train heating and cooling system. At Train, they test so it runs. Visit traininfo.com to find your local dealer and learn more. It's hard to stop a train.
How likely is it that the Falcons try to navigate a trade for Julio Jones?
Yeah, I think a trade is likely. I think the Rams, Baltimore, and Tennessee, but boy, Tennessee makes a lot of sense for a number of reasons. They're in a win-now mode. Their quarterback's over 30. They lost a really good receiver in Corey Davis. Julio Jones would come there, with A.J. Brown and make them immeasurably better. Arthur Smith, the current head coach of the Falcons, was the offensive coordinator of Tennessee. He knows that roster well. Maybe it's a player like a Rashad Evans, a good young linebacker, and a second-round pick. Maybe that's a win-win. So I think at this point, the fact that this story is still out there tells me that there's probably something to it. Julio Jones, he's obviously much closer to the end than the beginning. Terry Fontenot, the new GM of the Saints, who's the GM of the Falcons. Arthur Smith, new head coach. If you're going to do something like this, you do it in year one. So to me, this really makes sense that after June 1st, he could get moved.
That was Mike Tannenbaum from ESPN on This Morning with Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin on ESPN Radio discussing the possibility of Julio Jones being traded to the Tennessee Titans. Interesting conversations that don't appear to be going away anytime soon. And we talked about the Derrick Henry tweet yesterday as well. Now, Joe, a lot of people took that and ran with it. I don't think it's some earth-shattering announcement that Derrick Henry would like to play with Julio Jones.
Yeah, players don't care about the salary cap. So, they're like, yeah, let's go. Bring it on. Yeah, I mean, it's a fun thing, but that is not an indication that there's anything more to this than fantasy football. But again, I've shifted after some conversations yesterday. So we'll see. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying, it really is basically like cue the Dumb and Dumber scene. So you're saying there's a chance, that's about where we are. But I'm the cold water that I was pouring on it. I'm holding the bucket over here now. Okay, I'm gonna set it down for a minute and let it play out. And it's fun to think about. It's just I still have real doubts about it actually being able to work out, and I have a notion that one of these other teams that is actually in pretty good position could probably much more easily pull this off. But the Arthur Smith thing, that's a clear. To me, that just increases the fact that you got people who trust each other, who can talk about these things and maybe figure something out. And again, as Tannenbaum pointed out, Arthur Smith certainly knows the roster on the other side of those conversations.
So you're telling me there's a chance.
Very nicely done. Very nicely done.
Have you seen that movie, Ryan Porth?
Of course.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't know. Well, I don't know if "of course" is the appropriate response to any question we ask you about a movie.
You've seen the cinematic masterpiece, Dumb and Dumber, of course. But,
of
course,
but
not Pulp Fiction.
Yes. Equated Pulp Fiction and Wedding Crashers the other day. So I don't know if "of course" is the right answer when it comes to this. Porth, what do you think of this Julio Jones situation? What are your thoughts on Julio Jones potentially to the Titans?
In a fantasy world, I love it. I mean, let's get Julio Jones in here, get him, A.J. Brown can keep number 11. Julio Jones dons the number 8 jersey. All the Mariota jerseys at Nissan Stadium can have duct tape over Mariota with people in Sharpie writing Jones over the duct tape. But I love the thought of Julio Jones in a Titans jersey. I know he's a little banged up now at this stage in his career, but I am willing to roll the dice on 12 games of Julio Jones if you can make the money work. I really am. And to something you said just a couple minutes ago, Joe, about the tweet that Derrick Henry sent out yesterday, you're not putting a lot of stock in it, but must I remind you that the Titans players made a big social media push for Jadeveon Clowney or Cladavian Jowney, and it happened. Bud Dupree, Titans players made a push for him. It happened. A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry have now both tweeted about Julio Jones. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's true. Now, those were free agents. And, I like Clowney. To me, that was like they were recruiting on behalf of John Robinson because everyone knew that's what he was trying to do, right? Versus, like, this is, hey, John, can you make this trade happen, please? So it's a little, it's a little different. That was like, those were like recruiting, efforts versus this is, this is not someone who's on the market who you're just trying to convince to sign with you. He has no say in this, right? But yeah, that's a fair point. Hey, it's never a bad thing. like if you're John Robinson and you know that you've got players who are campaigning for something, I mean, you probably pay a little bit of attention to that, right? Like, like you at least know that like Derrick Henry and Julio Jones didn't like get in a scuffle at like an Alabama alumni golf outing or something. Apparently they like each other. That's a good thing.
It's always
good
a good
team
start.
chemistry.
Yes. We've got a lot of text to get to on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Got a texter that says, would the Falcons potentially want Byard? I don't want to do that, but Pease might really like it. What do you think about that? Is Kevin Byard a piece that's way too much to give back in exchange for Julio Jones? What do you think about that?
Well, I think it'd be more in the corner range. It's funny because as previously constructed, it might have been perfect for the Titans to like send a Dory to them, right?
Yep.
And rather than just cut him. But that's over now. That's a thought. I don't know that safety is necessarily. I mean, my goodness, you're talking about. You're talking about a $15 million cap number for Kevin Byard. I mean, if they absolutely love Kevin Byard, Dean Pease is like, I want him to be the captain of my defense. I think he's a great player. Then, okay, there's one side of it. It's possible. From the Titans' perspective, you've just moved Vaccaro. What's your starting safety group look like then? You're talking about obviously
Brady Breeze
and Brady Breeze.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that. I think suddenly you've taken a pretty big chunk out of your defense there. Do you love Dane Crookshank? Is he going to be healthy and take a huge step into the rotation? I mean, whoo! I don't know, man. I mean, look, from the numbers perspective, it works out. I think that might be a little bit out there.
Andrew on the text line says, well, if it's win now, then kicking the can down the road is okay for the next year, right? It's win now means the window's not open to win much longer. I mean, I guess that depends on your perspective. Like, ask the Philadelphia Eagles, was it worth it? I would say, yeah, you got a Super Bowl out of it. Now, the Saints, they've been kicking the can down the road for a long time now. They've been close, and that has started to come back to bite them at this point with their salary cap positions as well. So if it works out, you don't care. You got the Super Bowl to show for it. I'm sure the people in Philadelphia, they don't care because they got the Super Bowl to show for it. If it doesn't, you're in a tough spot a couple years down the road.
Yeah. Listen, teams do it. If you do it and you win it, great. I think John Robinson has been pretty measured relative to some of his counterparts on stuff like that. It's really comes down to your belief. First of all, what is the give back? What's the trade-off? What are you losing? Because like Byard, yeah, had you kept Vaccaro and you felt like okay with like Vaccaro and Hooker, okay, you're fundamentally changing things there. But this happens in the league. I just don't think right now that's a thing you can do. You feel good about the trade-off and you feel like Julio Jones comes here, this team suddenly can win the AFC, let's go. Sure. It's still not as simple as restructure, but you should be able to find some money with some of these deals and create a little bit more space. And they are. I mean, are they a win now? I would say so. They just paid Bud Dupree a ton of money to come in here. They just paid Clowney and Beasley last year a ton of money to come in here and fix their biggest problem. So they are. I don't know that they're. It comes down to what you're giving up. Can you make it work? Do you believe this guy, again, 32, diminishing some as a player, makes that much of a difference?
Raymond on the text line says, trade them Taylor Lewan. He's been out more than on the field since his contract he signed. Yeah, now we're talking. A little spicy on the text line.
I mean, Lewan and Byard both. Then you got Julio and all kinds of space. You're rolling, baby. I mean, yeah, no, you're not trading Taylor. To me, look how different that team was last year. And they were still really good offensively. Sure. But they were different. They were not as good without him last year. And I think at some point, maybe Taylor Lewan becomes a conversation, but I don't think that's right now. And again, I don't think that's in the wheelhouse of what the Falcons really want back. I mean, anybody would want Taylor Lewan. There are a few teams who are like, no, we have a better left tackle, but I don't think that's the route.
Coming up next, we'll be joined by Turron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter. We'll get into the Julio Jones situation with him and much more. That's coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Oh, yeah, it's that time of the week here on Robby and Rexrode. Time to be joined on our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, by Turron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans report and host of Talking with TD. TD, what's going on, brother? How we doing?
Hey, what's going on? Good morning. Good morning.
We appreciate you taking time to join us this morning, TD. And TD, we've been talking all hour long about Julio Jones and the situation regarding the Atlanta Falcons. Jeff Schultz reporting yesterday that the Falcons will be interested in trading Julio Jones. What do you think of that possibility for the Titans? How realistic is it, and how much consideration should you give that if you were John Robinson?
I think it is somewhat realistic just because this is a team, right? They know that they're close, and if they feel that acquisition is something that would put them over the top, they'll do it. But it's just tough to imagine it happening because there's so much that has to be done cap-wise to be able to fit that $15 million underneath. And then you got a couple more years left on the deal. So it's not a cheap deal. They're going to have to give up compensation now and in the future, you know, as far as what they're going to have to pay.
Yeah, no question. And TD, that's why, you know, I've kind of from the start just dismissed it, but I'm feeling a little bit less dismissive of it today. So let's talk about, I mean, hey, this is fun stuff. It's fantasy football. It's not our money. Let's talk about what they would need to do. First of all, it seems to me like they would need to send not just draft capital, they would need to send some salaries back that the Falcons would be interested in, some of their veterans. And then obviously they'd need to do something creative with some of their existing contracts. How feasible is this? I mean, you covered the Eagles and you know where they are right now when it comes to the cap. You know, how realistic is it? And also, TD, how much of a potential hazard is it for the Titans if they go that route?
Yeah, from a cap perspective, it's absolutely realistic, man. And like you said, I covered the Eagles and saw them. You know, Howie Roseman is like the Dominique Dawes of salary cap. Like, he does all types of gymnastics. And I've seen them go from being in the red to being able to sign, Alshon Jeffrey, Torrey Smith, and Chris Long and LeGarrette Blount and go and win a Super Bowl. So it's definitely possible. You just got to figure out how you're going to kick it down the can down the road. And when you do that, at some point you got to pay the piper. And I'm not sure that the Titans are interested in doing something like that. And especially when you look at the team, like, they have some contracts that are going to be expiring in the next couple of years, right? You look at they'll have to pick up the option on Jeffrey Simmons, soon. Not this year, obviously, but next year that decision will be, one they'll have to make. You got AJ Jones, I almost said. Look at that. Thinking about both number 11. AJ Brown, his deal. And I think it's going to be tough to kick that can down the road, and especially not knowing. I mean, they believe that the cap's going to go back up and have that big-time jump that they wanted to make. But what if it doesn't have that jump and you're stuck in a situation similar to this year? So I'm not sure about that part of it. As far as the veterans to send back, I don't know. I mean, the good thing is you have a guy in Dean Pease who knows the roster pretty well, right? So I'm sure that there will be some veterans on there that he wants to bring back. But it's a very questionable situation. It's fun to talk about and think about, but I just don't know how much of a possibility that is.
So, TD, with that in mind, we know that the talent with Julio Jones is undeniable, but he is 32 years old. He has had some injury issues that have plagued him the last couple of years, even though he played through it in 2019, had 15 games under his belt, only 9 games last year. If it's the Titans, regardless of who it is, going after Julio Jones, they end up landing it and executing a trade, what does Julio Jones have left in the tank, in your opinion?
I think he still has, in the right scheme, I think he still has an 1,000-yard season in him. I think it's just you're not going to get the guy who just absolutely dominated everything that he was before. I think you'll still get a guy that has a presence and a guy that, if the Titans were to get him, I think they're getting a guy that could continue to help A.J. Brown, as far as just learn how to be a pro on and off the field. That's the good thing. And he has actually, been a guy that A.J. Brown looks up to and a guy that he watches a lot of.
Well, let me ask you this, TD. If two scenarios, you're John Robinson and you can make this happen, you're going to have to give up some, you're going to have to give up some veterans, maybe a veteran or two. You're going to have to give up some draft capital. You're going to be squeezed. You're going to have to figure out a way to make up the rest of the money. You got Julio in his current state, or you could have a starting quality tight end and keep everything else intact and, probably still have to do some gymnastics, but maybe just a couple cartwheels. Which scenario would you choose?
Are you trying to get Zach Ertz back in the mix?
That's right, baby. I'm trying to get all your former Eagles here for you, man.
Yeah, I tell you a funny story, man. This weekend I had a dream that happened, and I took Zach Ertz to, I'm not going to say the name of the place because they don't pay us to do it, but I took him to one of the restaurants downtown. Right. But, yeah, I think in those two scenarios, I probably would go for the tight end just because it's not going to impact you as much in the future. But the problem, if you go Zach Ertz and Julio Jones, you're talking about two guys who have dealt with injuries over the last couple of years, and you know how that works. As you get older, you don't get less susceptible to injury. It increases.
A TD premonition today, man.
Yeah, I like
bonus. That. I like it.
Yeah.
Did these things come true sometimes when you have dreams?
You know what? They do. I mean, I dreamed about working for ESPN, and look what happened. I dreamed about being on the radio with you guys, and here we are.
That's very well done there.
Dream of a lifetime right there.
It sure is. ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, host of Talking with TD, Turron Davenport on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. TD, last thing for you here. If it's not Julio Jones and that doesn't work out with the Titans and they just go with the receiving room as is right now, what do you think of this receiving room? Obviously, A.J. Brown being the number one. I would assume Josh Reynolds the number two right now. What do you think of this receiving room as currently constructed for the Titans?
I think it's an underrated room, but it's unproven. And the reason why it's unproven is you have a guy in Josh Reynolds who was really good in college. He was solid with the Rams, but the question is, can he become that number two? Can he become that guy who's going to eat off of single coverage opposite A.J. Brown? I believe he can, but that's a question. And then even from there, okay, what happens to the slot, right? This is a team that likes to be, put together drives and be efficient on third down. When it's 3rd and 7, who's going to run that choice route and pick up that first down? And I think right now it's interesting because we're talking with TD. I had Riedel Anthony on, former Bucks and Washington receiver, as well as Florida Gator legend, and he trained Dez Fitzpatrick, and he was saying that he projects Dez's initial contribution to come via the slot. So if they want that bigger slot guy, it's funny because I've seen comparisons to Michael Thomas, and I'm not making that comparison. I'm saying I've seen it, but if that is the case, then he could be a guy that would actually be a very effective third down pass catcher if he has that in his wheelhouse. So it's still unproven, and I think that's really the big thing. Apparently they feel better about it than we do. And Mike Vrabel, you know how he is. He's going to stand up for his guys, and that's what he's done.
I don't think there's any question about that. ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter and host of Talking with TD, Turron Davenport, has been our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. You can check him out every Friday here on Robby and Rexrode as well. TD, great stuff as always, man. Appreciate you taking time to join us and hope you enjoy your weekend.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. I hope you do the same.
Absolutely. Turron Davenport, one of the best football minds that you're going to find out there, joins us every Friday here on Robby and Rexrode. When we come back, It is time for Call Your Shot Friday here on Robby and Rexrode. We need your bold predictions in the world of sports. 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025 on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll do that next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025, The Game.
The sports weekend has arrived. You know what that means. Shoot your shot. It's time for Call Your Shot Friday with Robby and Rexrode on ESPN 1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It is that time of the week, time for Call Your Shot Friday here on Robby and Rexrode. We need your bold predictions in the world of sports. It could be with the Predators and the Hurricanes. It could be with some Titans offseason moves. And it could be with Nashville SC. Anybody you want to take it, it's all on the table on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Joe Rexrode, do we have a recap from last week's edition of Call Your Shot Friday?
I am woefully unprepared. This file has gotten so out of hand. I need to delete some stuff. Give me hey, Porth, tell me something that happened in the Call Your Shot last week. Give me a keyword.
Something.
Oh my gosh.
I know it's bad. It's bad. I need to delete this stuff. Come on. What was your called shot?
I think one of my called shots was that the Warriors were going to beat the Grizzlies Sunday in the regular season finale.
Yeah.
If that helps you with the search.
Porth really stepping out on a limb there.
Oh, it does help with the search. Here we go. All right. Let's go with the recap.
Unbelievable.
Hey, I just proved that I can search a Word document, so that's pretty impressive.
Hey, at least you still have the Word document.
That is true.
All right, my shots were Preds will win game 1, 3-2. Roman Yossi winning goal. I also had a beautiful called shot that the Blues will beat the Avs. I mean, hey,
that's looking good.
You know what? Yeah, hey, it's called Call Your Shot, not make wimpy safe predictions, okay?
I agree.
It's going to look bad. I said the Vols will take 2 of 3 from number 1 Arkansas in front of a full crowd, and man, they easily could have. They took one that they could have easily won all 3. That one should have worked. Now Mark had one, and it was a long term that the Celtics will be one and done in the playoffs. So we'll see on that. Okay. Porth, you had you said, and I tell you what. By the way, last night these games. The Stanley Cup playoff just fantastic. I mean, the Florida win last night.
Yeah,
my goodness, what a freaking game and series. So you said, Porth, round 2 will not be Tampa Bay versus Carolina. It still doesn't look good for you, but a little bit of daylight last night.
I have more belief after what transpired last night. That's not to say there's a lot of belief, but I have more belief after last night between the Panthers and the Bolts.
That series
could have more belief tonight too.
Sure, absolutely.
That's right.
Got to be a believer.
That's right.
You did say Warriors will beat the Grizz Sunday, so you got that shot right. You said the North Division first round will be a combined 9 games. That doesn't look great.
Well, I mean, it still could. It still could. There have only been 2 games played in the North Division playoffs so far.
Yes, thank you.
So you got the Canadians and Jets just rolling, huh?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Sounds really fired up about it. So that was our edition of Call Your Shot Friday.
No, he left one
last
out.
week.
He left one out.
What's one?
Because I opposed his called shot when he said that the Blues were going to beat the Avalanche. I shoved it right back to him and said the Avalanche were going to sweep the Blues.
Ooh, sweep. Still on the table.
Absolutely.
I don't have that written down, so it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So I didn't type it up. I don't remember that.
There you go. So with that in mind, that is our edition of Call Your Shot Friday last week. Ryan Porth, would you like to lead us off for this week's edition of Call Your Shot Friday?
Sure, I would be glad to. Let's start with what we were just talking about for the last 45 minutes. I'm going to call the shot that the Tennessee Titans trade for Julio Jones.
Oh, I like that.
Everybody saying it's so unlikely because of cap issues, and yes, those are real, but you can kick the can down the road and go get Julio Jones right now and go win a Super Bowl. So Julio Jones ends up in a Titans uniform this offseason. So
I like it.
Calling that shot, and that Rashaan Evans is a part of that trade going back to Atlanta. And then John Robinson looks smarter than everybody else for picking Monty Rice in the 3rd round.
Yes.
I just want to interject. So you think that Arthur Smith and Dean Pease are like, oh, we got to have Rashaan Evans.
Got to have Rashaan Evans back in there, baby.
The last time Dean Pease was the DC, Rashaan Evans was pretty okay. Much better than he was last year.
Yes, he was pretty okay. All righty.
I wasn't going to say pretty good because wasn't going to go that far. All right, so game 3 tonight, the Preds and the Canes. The Nashville Predators will score a power play goal tonight.
Nice.
Ooh, that's a shot.
That's a shot.
Hot take of a shot.
And
I like it.
The player that scores the power play goal will be Ellie Tolvanen.
That's a shot in more ways than one. I like that.
Yeah, it is.
And speaking of shots, Steph Curry's going to make a lot of them tonight. He puts up 40 against Memphis.
Jeez, 40. I like it, Porth.
Or more.
Do you have any more called shots?
I don't.
All righty, so that's Ryan Porth's edition today. Joe Rexrode, your edition of Call Your Shot Friday heading into this weekend.
Typing as I say it. The Nashville Predators will win tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and just, I'm just going to show my hand for weekend winners because whatever, I'm blowing you guys out anyway. The Nashville Predators will win tonight in overtime.
Oh, overtime win.
What's the score?
The score will be 3-2.
That is the most generic score ever. This is not Wimpy Score Friday. This is Call Your Shot Friday. Where's the 5-4 or 6-5 prediction?
Oh, I'm sorry. They'll win 9-8. Does that make you feel better? What?
Sure.
I mean, I'm calling a shot that they're winning in overtime.
This coming from the guy that last week called the shot that the Warriors would beat the Grizzlies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Oh. Or that the Avs will win. By the way.
Sweep. Not just win, but sweep.
Yes.
I have that's fine.
It was like plus 600 odds in the sports books. Come on.
And I'm not done with that shot. The winning goal will be scored by Matt Duchene.
Oh, I like that.
Just to like, blow everyone's mind. Shot 2. The Carolina Hurricanes will win Sunday in overtime.
So you're just totally going through weekend winners.
Is the score on Sunday 3-2?
Yes.
5-4. Yeah, does that make you feel a little better?
Sure.
Yes, it does.
Who scores for Carolina in Game 4 in overtime?
Marty Natchez.
Svechnikov is the winner, and that may not be some great shot, but whatever. At least being specific. Okay.
Warren Fogle. Yeah. Okay.
Brock McGinn.
And my last called shot is that the Memphis Grizzlies will shock the Golden State Warriors tonight and get the 8 seed.
Wow.
In San Fran.
I like that.
That's
a heck of a shot right there.
Okay.
And Jaren Jackson, 28 points.
28 points. Very specific. 28 points from Jaren Jackson.
See, I'm giving you specific shots.
If he scores 29, you won't get that right.
That is true.
Great. No problem.
I will go quickly. I've only got 2 to throw out there. Islanders with a tough loss in the series last night against Pittsburgh. They will fight back. They will win the series against the Pittsburgh Penguins. So make sure you keep that. They're down 2-1 at the moment. They'll come back. They will win the series against the Pittsburgh Penguins. I say the Grizzlies lead at half against Golden State tonight in the game. And then Steph Curry takes over. He scores 15 points or more in the fourth quarter. And Golden State wins tonight against Memphis. So that's my 2 called shots. We got a lot to get to very quickly on the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Mark from Clarksville texting in. The Predators win in 7 games. The Titans trade for Julio Jones. The Lakers beat the Suns in 5 and go on to win the championship again. Mark also says Pekka will make an appearance in the playoffs. So a lot from Mark and Clarksville there on that front.
He said
that's
Pekka
a lot.
He said Pekka will not make an appearance.
Oh, did he? Okay, apparently I can't read.
It would
will
be
not make an appearance.
Okay, that's not a shot. Come on. A shot would be to say that he will make an appearance.
That's why I assumed that's what he said. Or apparently I just can't read. Eric in Bellevue says the Preds will win the next 4. I feel good about that. Now that, my friends, is a shot. I like that.
I will take Eric in Bellevue to dinner if the Preds win the next 4 games.
There you go. Porth, another called shot on that front as well. Greg on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says that the Montreal Canadiens will sweep the Toronto Maple Leafs. Montreal, big win last night. Impressive shorthanded goal by Paul Byron. Greg saying that Montreal sweeps Toronto.
Wouldn't that be
That's
the
a called
most
shot too?
Wouldn't
that is a shot.
Wouldn't that be the most Toronto Maple Leafs thing ever?
Yes.
That would be even more Maple Leafs than the most Toronto Maple Leafs thing ever.
Yes, it would. Ben on the text line says, Julio Jones ends up with the Raiders because the Raiders are crazy. So that coming from Ben on the text line. We got a lot more to get to throughout the show today. Taking your thoughts all show long on our text line and your shots all show long on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. When we come back, we will be joined by the great Teresa Walker from the Associated Press. We'll get into the Predators a little bit with her. Also look ahead to the play-in game matchup tonight between the Memphis Grizzlies and the Golden State Warriors as well. All that coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode live from the Wholesaling Studios, powered by RumbleOn.com here on ESPN 1025 The Game. Welcome back in. Hour number 3 of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. And we've got some tickets to give away, a pair of tickets to see the Predators take on the Carolina Hurricanes in Game 4 coming up on Sunday at Bridgestone Arena. Ryan Porth with another trivia question that you can answer on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Ryan Porth, what is today's trivia question?
So the trivia question is Predators playoff related, as it's been all week long. In the Nashville Predators franchise history with the playoffs, including last year's bubble series against Arizona, how many coaches have they faced in the postseason?
Ooh. How many coaches have the Predators faced in their playoffs history, including the bubble last year in Arizona? If you know the answer to that question, hit up the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. The first person to correctly guess the answer will win a pair of tickets to see the Predators take on the Carolina Hurricanes in Game 4 coming up at Bridgestone Arena on Sunday. So with that in mind, let's switch gears, go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our good friend Teresa Walker from the Associated Press. Teresa, what's going on? How we doing?
Well, we're doing pretty good. About the Predators, I can't answer that. We'll find out tonight if they're able to find this extra gear. But having one, I'll be honest. I was busy with the Grizzlies on Wednesday night with their play-in series against the Spurs. But let's put it this way: I saw the highlights, and I saw, Joe. I saw the video of you asking John Hines and Steve Lehman following up, and it feels like I saw everything right there. I'm just saying, that was the game that. If they were going to, get the win that they have to have on the road to truly make this a series, because I disagree with, here's the thing. What we have been told ever since this team came to town is when you're in the playoffs, a series doesn't start until you win in the other building. And the Predators haven't done that yet. And Carolina comes in here. Nashville has never been swept in the 13 previous playoff years that they've made the postseason. They've never been swept. Last year in that qualifying series in the bubble, they won at least once. And then in the 2012 Western semifinals against the Phoenix Coyotes, they won at least once before they were beaten. So they've never been swept. I'm very curious to see if they find a way. But when you go 0-7 on the power play in a game that your goalie has held them to just one goal and you can't find a way to tie it up, it just kind of it feels like the series is almost over.
And Teresa, to that point, I was going to ask you, you mentioned going 0-7 on the power play. Which storyline are you more tired of talking about? The power play struggles for the Predators that have been there for the last 3 to 4 years, or the pass rushing struggles with the Tennessee Titans?
Oh, I'm going to say power play because it's gone on longer. Yes, the Titans had only 19 sacks last year, were last in the NFL through 15 games. But the year before that, if I'm remembering right, they had 43 sacks. So, while they may not have been among the best in the NFL for a while, they certainly haven't been as bad as the Predators have year after year. And now with different coaches and, they changed some of the players, but it just continues to just be bad, awful, and worse.
Well, we talked earlier, Teresa, a little bit about, sort of the ramifications, of where they are right now. And then look, it wasn't that long ago we were talking about it potentially starting to materialize at the trading deadline. But if there isn't some dramatic turnaround here, and this ends relatively quickly, 4 or 5 games, whatever the case may be. It really just, if the Preds don't advance past this round, what do you think we're going to see in this offseason?
We've got to see change, right? We've already seen a season due to injury where a franchise record, 12 different rookies played, right? You've got the Kraken expansion draft, that hopefully takes one of these big, long, very expensive contracts off your hand. But, let's face it, it'd certainly be helpful if one of those players got hot. and look productive in this postseason to, maybe entice the Kraken to take maybe a Matt Duchene off your hands. But guess what? Change has to come because it just seems, yes, they got really hot and won 20 of 28 games to get in the postseason, but it almost, we're seeing the gap, guys. Yes, they could beat Columbus and Detroit and Chicago, but we're seeing that when it comes to the top of this division, and we kind of knew this when they put this division together in this pandemic season, that there'd be a challenge. I mean, Tampa Bay, defending Stanley Cup champs, and you see what they're doing against Florida. And the winner of this division, Carolina, which was in competition for the President's Trophy until the final week. I mean, you can see the gap between the Predators and the top of the NHL, and it seems to be a pretty good step that the Predators haven't been able to figure out how to, close yet. So how can change and a lot of change not be coming?
Teresa Walker from the Associated Press on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So, Teresa, obviously a big win for the Grizzlies the other night against the San Antonio Spurs, setting up a gigantic matchup tonight for a berth into the playoffs against the Golden State Warriors. What kind of stood out to you about the Grizzlies and their win against San Antonio, and what do you give their chances to be in this matchup against a very red-hot Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors?
Well, it was a great game on Wednesday night, and the Grizzlies did on Wednesday night what they hadn't been doing. They've had some really big leads. This team is talented enough to get big leads on some teams, and they've blown some leads. I was going through the list, and I came up with at least 5 or 6 on Wednesday night before the game. Knicks, who are 4th in the East, well, they had a big double-digit lead at the Knicks and ended up losing that game in overtime. If you've been watching the Grizzlies, there was a game in April where Luka Doncic makes a kind of a running, desperation 3 to beat him at the buzzer. And they had a double-digit lead plus 20 at the Lakers. Back before all the injuries hit the Lakers. So they're very talented, but they're still young enough that getting to this stage is huge for them to try to learn how to win, to get over that hump, and kind of take the next step for that franchise. The interesting thing, these teams played on Sunday, and the Grizzlies had a lead in the fourth quarter over Steph Curry, and he was having another great game. The key is whether or not Dillon Brooks can stay in the game. He fouled out with 6:12 left on Sunday. On Wednesday night, he scored 8 straight when the Grizzlies had lost the lead. They dominated and led most of the game, but in that fourth quarter, the Spurs took the lead twice. Dillon Brooks answered each time and put them ahead to stay with 8 straight points. Now, and he finished the game being available. Now, that's been the big key. They put him on the toughest guys. He helped limit DeMar DeRozan to 5 made shots on Wednesday night, their leading scorer. He's going to get Steph again tonight. He's got to not take some of the couple of silly fouls that he had on Sunday. If he stays in the game, I can't wait to see what the final minute is like in Golden State tonight.
Yeah, Dillon Brooks, love watching him play defense, hate watching him choose shots sometimes, but obviously a key guy for them in that matchup. So, Teresa, the Julio Jones talk, we're having, it's growing. I want to get you on a scale of 1 to 10. In your mind, the viability of this discussion for the Titans, Julio Jones, the Titans, scale of 1 to 10.
I think you've got to put it at least a 6 to 7.
Ooh.
Because
I like it.
That's
yes,
calling a shot.
Come on.
This is talk. And guess what? John Robinson and that front office should be talking about what it would cost to add a Julio Jones. Because, yes, you can really like Des Fitzpatrick, you can really like Josh Reynolds, but this is a franchise with 5 straight winning seasons. Only the Seahawks and Chiefs have had more consecutive winning seasons, but finding a way to push yourself past the edge to do more than win the AFC South. Derrick Henry made his opinion pretty clear yesterday. He'd like to see Julio Jones in a Titans uniform. So would A.J. Brown. Can only imagine Ryan Tannehill thinks the same. The question is, can they find enough space, rework a couple more deals to make the space to afford Julio Jones? That's the question. But should they be talking about it? Absolutely, because this is a team that's trying to find a way to get to the Super Bowl. Could he be the piece? You got to try.
I love it. Teresa Walker from the Associated Press has been our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. Teresa, great stuff as always. Appreciate you taking time to join us and enjoy the multitude of sports options we have tonight. Preds and Canes, Game 3. Grizzlies taking on the Warriors in the play-in game as well. Should be a lot of fun this weekend.
Hey, I'm going to be watching the other game. Trust me, I was watching the Predators on my phone while I was at the Grizzlies. I'll be doing the same tonight at the Predators. It's that time of year. It's just weird that it's in late May.
That's it. You're exactly right. Teresa Walker from the Associated Press, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. Ryan Porth, do we have a winner for our trivia question? Where the question of the day for tickets to Game 4 coming up on Sunday at Bridgestone Arena. Do we have a winner yet?
Yes, we do. It is Seth on Twitter.
All right.
Now, this took a minute. It took multiple minutes for someone to correctly identify the number of head coaches that the Nashville Predators have faced in postseason action in their franchise history, and that number is 16. So Seth
16 head coaches.
Correctly guessing 16, and Seth is going to Game 4.
That was a very creative question that you came up with, Ryan Porth. Well done.
I got some heat on the text line for making it too hard. I'm like, well, this is your last chance to get in the building for Game 4. Got to make it tough.
That's right.
Well, not your last
taking
chance.
It easy on people here on the show today.
You can go to Pete and Terry's from 10 to 2 today and register to win tickets with Darren, Donick, and Chase. So that actually is your last chance, but this was your last trivia chance here on Robby and Rexrode.
And Seth got it right, so you can't complain. Someone got it.
Exactly. Later this morning, it's your chance to participate in the Nashville SC Pick to Click, brought to you by Camarena Tequila. If you guess correctly which player scores a goal in the game this Sunday night, you'll win a prize pack and a pair of tickets to an upcoming Nashville SC home game. When we come back, we'll get back into the Nashville Predators, looking ahead to their matchup against Carolina tonight in Game 3. What do the Predators have to do to get back into this series? We'll discuss it next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. 1025 The Game and T-Mobile have partnered up to give you a chance to experience a Nashville SC game this season. Tune in every Monday to Darren, Donick, and Chase for the keyword to text in to win. Good luck from 1025 The Game, T-Mobile, and Nashville SC. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, here on ESPN 1025 The Game, streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. Talking Nashville Predators, looking ahead to Game 3 coming up tonight for the Predators against the Carolina Hurricanes. Puck drop at 6 o'clock tonight, so a little bit of an earlier start tonight for the Predators than we're used to at home. Pregame at 5 o'clock here on ESPN 1025 The Game. Obviously, Joe, the Preds in an 0-2 hole coming back, as Teresa Walker mentioned in the last segment. You hear the phrase, a series doesn't start until a road team wins at some point. That's not been the case so far. Home team has won both games in Carolina. I would expect the energy tonight at Bridgestone Arena to be pretty off the charts. The environment's going to be great. We saw it in Carolina. It was awesome. I expect a similar environment tonight in Bridgestone Arena. Number one, how much do you think that affects the game to start with for the Predators? And number two, we had a texter bring this up earlier. They've had their backs against the wall before this season, and they've had to dig their way out. How much do you think that could serve them well now heading into this situation down 0-2 against Carolina?
Well, first of all, that cliche, I've never liked it because, like, I've seen amazing series that went 7 games with the home team winning every game. And if Carolina wins on the road tonight, it doesn't start the series; it ends the series.
That is true.
But look, I do think the Preds should respond. I think they will respond. I think the scene will be fantastic. And it's not just a playoff series. You're coming home, you're down, all that stuff. You would have an amazing building any year in that scenario. But this year, I mean, again, when's the last time a crowd gathered in that building this big for something that meant this much? It would be Game 5 against Dallas 2 years ago.
Yep.
Which was, as I recall, quite a big disappointment. But that's the last time this building had factors like this. So when you wait that long for something like this, I think the place is going to be absolutely out of hand great. And I think the Preds will respond to it. I think it's important early that you don't get like the Eric Halla penalty you got early in Game 2, which is just a needless, stupid penalty. You know, don't turn your exuberance into a parade to the box. But you know, I think we'll see the Preds coming out hitting. And you said this earlier on the show, and I agree with you. You then have to translate that into production because at some point it wears off and they counter on you. And if you have all this energy and you're controlling things and you can't punch anything in, that's a very demoralizing thing to, you know, then actually give up the first goal. I mean, I think that's a big thing. It's always a big thing in hockey. But I think the first period, the first goal in this game is going to be very important.
Well, I think it is too. And also, aside from just getting the first goal, whenever your first power play opportunity comes, I'm not saying that you've got to score on it, but you've got to at least look like you know what you're doing out there on the power play because they didn't and they haven't so far in this series. If you come out in your first power play opportunity tonight and you can't get the puck in the zone and you can't get set up again, all that positive momentum we talked about with the crowd. I mean, we saw this in 2019 as well. Like you get a power play and you want to be excited. You should be excited if you're a fan and you've got all this positive momentum built up. And then the power play comes and goes, and you see the Predator inept. They can't allow that to happen. As Yossi said the other night after the game, yes, you want to score, and that's got to be great. You've at least got to generate some sort of positive momentum on the power play. It can't just totally zap you like it did the other night.
Yeah, and I think, look, there's maybe it will be different at home. But I think that the Preds have – I think Carolina's excellence really has bothered the Preds and has gotten them off their game a little bit. And again, I do think that they took a step from Game 1 to Game 2. Not enough of a step because you win or you lose. but they took some kind of a step. But I still feel like they're missing on some plays that they can make. And I can't help but wonder if just the pressure that Carolina applies to you isn't affecting that. You know, you talk about it in hockey, guys gripping the stick when they're in a slump, right? And just, you're just a little bit off and it's not quite there for you. You're not in that rhythm, not in that zone. I think in this case, it's a little bit of a team that puts so much pressure on you in various ways that it's gotten the Preds a little bit off their game. So I think one way to help cure that is to certainly hit people, which I expect them to do a lot tonight, and to get the pucks deep, get that fourth line cycling, let them set the tone. But it also goes back to what we've talked about. I mean, Adam Ving and I just tweeted out his story about this topic too. The big boys, the main guys, the core group, someone in there has got to step up and make plays to win a game.
Absolutely. And this kind of feels like, to me, Joe, the last stand for this core group. They've kept the core group together. They kind of nibbled around the edges of it heading into this season. And still we are. I mean, we're sitting here through the season now and it's so far into this playoff series. And there are some prominent members of that core group who have not produced to the level that they're paid to produce. They've not produced to the level that we've grown accustomed to expecting them to produce. So it's difficult for me to imagine if this series ends shortly, or even if you just don't get past Carolina in this series and you factor in the larger body of work over the course of the last couple of years, like, changes are going to be made at this point. Changes are going to happen with this core group. I would be floored if they don't. If you're a part of that core group and you don't want to see that, like, this feels like your last stand. You've got to find a way to start to turn this around tonight. And not just tonight, you've got to battle your way back in this series and make it competitive again. Look, they're not stupid in that locker room. They know that if they lose tonight, you're just probably not going to win the series. I mean, it's as simple as that. This is as close to a must-win as it gets for the Predators in this game at home. And this is a big night for that core group, because if they don't show up again tonight and you go down 0-3 and you're out quickly in this series, this group's going to look different next year. It just has to.
Yeah, it has to. Of course, then you get onto the discussion of how does that happen? How can that be made to happen? I mean, Teresa Walker brought it up. We've talked about it a lot. The expansion draft, and you look at these centers, and there's a lot of different things. It's not easy. I mean, it's not. You look at Ryan Ellis. Does someone out there want that contract right now? I mean, there's a lot of difficulties with the way this team has been constructed to make the change happen. But for now, they're in a series, and to me, it would take more than even winning this series for this group to prove that, like, there's actually steps they can take together to get to contention.
Yep.
But it's open mind for now with the 2-0 series lead. Yeah, you get to 3-0. You're right. The must win would not come until the elimination game, but there'd be a big shift in attention back to what we were talking about, previous to St. Patrick's Day.
Make sure you're joining us today on Darren, Donick, and Chase. They'll be broadcasting live at Pete and Terry's at Bridgestone Arena from 10 to 2 p.m. And I'll have a chance for you to win a pair of tickets to Game 4 coming up this Sunday. And then on Sunday, join 102.5 The Game for our official Preds versus Hurricane watch party at the Dogwood at 1907 Division Street in Midtown. The party kicks off at 11 a.m. with Ryan Porth and Caroline Fenton broadcasting live leading up to the pregame from the arena on Game 4 on Sunday. When we come back, we'll look ahead to Game 3 tonight coming up between the Predators and the Carolina Hurricanes. Preds TV analyst Terry Crisp will join us next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Looking ahead to Game 3 between the Nashville Predators and the Carolina Hurricanes. And to help us do that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our good friend Terry Crisp, Preds TV analyst, to the program. Crispy, what's going on? How we doing?
Beautiful day out there, guys. It's sunshine. It's just typical playoff weather. And guess what? We're in the playoffs, boys. They come down the stretch just a flying, hit a buzzsaw in the Carolina Hurricanes, who we all knew all along were a good team, are a good team. Gave them a run for their money last game, and getting ready now to it. All our fans have been waiting for a playoff game at Bridgestone.
Absolutely. It's going to be awesome environment tonight at Bridgestone Arena, Crispy. As you've looked at these first two games from the Predators, outside of the obvious from the power play, which was really bad in Game 2, what stands out to you about what has to change for this group as they look ahead and move forward here into Game 3 tonight?
Probably I'm thinking more traffic. And by traffic, I mean, I know we all get mad in the morning when we get up and hear the traffic reports here of 9 and whatnot, but we got to get more traffic to the net. I mean, they got good goaltending the same as we have, but we got to have guys who go there and stay there. And I mean, not just 5-on-5, we have to attack the net, but on the power play, we got to have guys that are stationed. Like they put a guy and they leave him there. And I'm thinking we got to take a guy and say, listen, you're on the power play, but you know what your job is? You go to the front of the net and you stay there. And you might have another buddy with you working sort of in tandem, not beside each other, but in tandem. And the other three guys form that triangle, and you blast it. I mean, when I look at our guys that we have, like guys who can shoot the puck, like Yossi and Ellis and Ekholm from the point, feed those guys, Forsberg down lower in front of the net, whoever. But we've got to get traffic and start firing more rubber on the net. That's what I want to see more of, both 5-on-5 and especially on the power play.
So, Crispy, how do the Preds better set up and enter the zone? Because obviously that's been a huge problem in 2 games, and we know the Hurricanes are extremely aggressive, extremely good at that. But what's the adjustment to enter the zone? And you mentioned some of those guys from the point. What about Ellie Tolvanen? Because there's certainly some other guys in this lineup who might be able to be more effective 5-on-5, but would you still have him in for his threat on the power play?
Well, let me put it this way. The other night he had no shots. So what kind of a threat is that to me? Hey, when he was out there and we were clicking, all well and good. He got injured out of the lineup. I come back, and Coach Hines has said it. He said he hasn't played the same since then. We obviously haven't set him up the same. And my feeling is this. If you're going to dress a player as a coach, if you're going to dress him strictly for the power play, then he's got to be the elite man on the power play. He's got to be worth the place that he's taken on the lineup for the power play. Well, right now it's not working. So I'm thinking my best shooter is Forsberg. He has been all along. And I'm thinking you have a chat with Philip because he's the man. He's the guy that's going to make this all go. He's got a shot second to none. When he uses it, when he gets determined he's going to the net and going to run, take the puck to the net, he's the man in business. So I would put a little onus on Philip saying, Philip, we need you. I mean, you're the man on this power play. Yost can fire it. Ellis can fire it. Eki can fire it. But when you get it and you come down that wing and you cut to the net and come around the net and make a swoop or whatever, that's when it all happens. And how do you enter? The one thing that we did do well, and they come back hard. They got an aggressive penalty kill. I love their penalty killing, Carolina. But aggressive could help you because they're bent on
this matchup
and attacking. Pardon?
No, sorry about that. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, and the thing is, if they're going to go back and stand at their blue line and hold you, have one man coming late, lay the puck back to him, and he's going to hit them with full bore, full speed. And I guarantee you, I've said this 100 times, some guy skating full bore forwards is going to go a lot faster than a guy skating backwards.
Crispy, as you look at this matchup for the Predators, one thing that stands out to me is you look at some of their big money guys in Carolina and guys that they rely on to score and play well. Your Sebastian Ahos, your Svechnikovs, who made a great play in Game 2. Jordan Stahl has been really good so far in this series. Their big money guys, their big time playmakers are making plays. I look at the Predators, and I'm needing more from Ryan Johansson, Matt Duchene, some of these guys that are getting paid a lot of money to put the puck in the back of the net. How much of a gut check time is this situation being down 0-2 for some of these core group members of the Predators, some of these guys that are paid a lot of money to score goals for this team?
You know what? We've said this earlier. We said this coming down the stretch run about gut check and who has to bring it. And Coach Hines has said it repeatedly that I've said the singers sing and the dancers dance and the drummers beat the drum. And if you're one of the guys that should be singing and scoring goals, you got to produce. That's your job. But you know what? The one thing I always say is, we say the big money guys. Money doesn't make you a better player. Money just makes you richer. That's all it does. A better player comes from within. They're set for life. They're set with their families. They love the game. They're playing a game, a sport that they love. It's a good life. And I don't understand how you can't get yourself, motivate yourself to get it going. Coaches can't motivate you. Money's not going to motivate you. It's from within. And I think the point of pride comes right now that every sports, in any sports at all, athletes, competitors, they have pride. Their pride should come to the front and say, you know what? I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to become Aho for our team. I'm going to become Niederreiter or Stahl, whoever it is, from within. Coaches can't do that. You can't take a needle and punch it into a guy's arm and say, okay, now you're set to go. Now you're hyped. No, that doesn't work. That comes from within. And I keep telling you, I'd put that great big mirror up every time they walked out of that dress room, and I'd say, you look into that mirror, and you tell that guy in the mirror, what's your job tonight? What is your job tonight?
Crispy, what do you think of Saros and his performance through 2 games? And let me also ask you, how stupid and ridiculous did you think my question was the other night?
Hey, Rex, I loved it because you guys, listen, I've coached 22 years. I've been on that podium where the coaches are, and I've been through every which way you can. Winning is great. Losing is tough when they're in there. And you know what? As a coach, we sometimes it just tweaks you the wrong way. And it's not that the question so much is that in your mind, and as a coach, you know in your mind what you're saying and what you're asking is right. And the answer that we should give you is right. But as a coach, we have to be very careful in our answers. Your job as the press, that's your job to ask them. We understand that. But our job is when we answer them, we can't sometimes give you what we'd like to give you because we as coaches, or they as coaches, whoever, and I've had my coaching, you got to go back into that dressing room. You got to win some hockey games. And the last thing you want to do is publicly or on the air or anywhere else is demean or take us apart one of the guys you're going to use, 2 or 3 of them. So you know what it is? It's more exasperation than anything from a coach when you're like that. I mean, if any of you guys ever watched Coach Tortorella, who is my favorite, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't mix. He doesn't hesitate. That's him. He gets away with it. That's not every coach's attitude. So, no, not that the questions are like that. It's that we can't answer them to you probably the way we would like to.
And what about Saros?
Saros is the best. I mean, right now, he has had a mentor in Pekka Rinne, and I love watching these 2 guys. Pekka has carried this team for so many. You know I'm a Pekka fan, and I always will be forever and ever. And he has done huge. And he has watched young Saros come along and become it. And we wouldn't, I'm going to be honest with you about this right now, we wouldn't be in playoffs if it wasn't for Saros. I know it's a team game, and I know it's we, and I know it's us, and I know it's delete. Having coached, if you don't have a goalie, you don't win. And let me tell you this. You go back over the history of hockey, every team that wins the Stanley Cup on that given year and that given season and that given playoffs, 9 out of 10 times that team will have had the best goaltender in the playoffs in that hot stretch. And right now, Saros is the key to this hockey club. But having said that, he can't do it all by himself. He needs some help. And I wish Saros could score some goals because then we might stand a chance of winning. But if he's going to do it at his end, his buddies, his teammates in front of him have got to do 2 things. Score at the other end for him and give him some leeway. And back in front of him, do the job, clearing out, getting loose pucks.
Predators TV analyst Terry Crisp has been our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. Crispy, thanks for taking time to join us this morning. It's going to be an awesome, awesome environment tonight at Bridgestone Arena.
No problems. And Rex, anytime you want to ask me one up on the podium, you come on. You bring it on, big guy.
That's right. That's
right.
I
can't wait. I got something for you.
That's right, Crispy.
Have a little one-on-one.
Hey, listen, before I sign off, we got to say it. Let's have our fans there. I mean, playoffs again in Nashville is noted. All of my Canadian people would love to come down to these playoffs in Nashville because of the plaza, the ambiance, and the Bridgestone, the feeling out at the park. It's playoffs. And this is what we've been waiting for. We'll see you all at the Bridgestone on the plaza and across the street.
Absolutely. Terry Crisp joins us every week here on Fridays at 8:30 here on the program. Great stuff. As always, going to be an awesome environment tonight at Bridgestone Arena. And when we come back, it's time for Preds Pick to Click, brought to you by New Amsterdam Vodka. Be the first caller at 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025 to guess the goal scorer for the Predators in the game tonight. If you win, and if you get it right, you'll win a prize pack brought to you by New Amsterdam Vodka. We'll do that next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game.
shot, and the score!
Who's going to find the back of the net in tonight's Preds game? Robby and Rexrode make their picks to click and welcome a listener to do the same. Pick to Click is brought to you by New Amsterdam Vodka, the official vodka of the NHL.
And it is that time of the day, time for Preds Pick to Click here on Robby and Rexrode, brought to you by New Amsterdam Vodka. The Predators taking on the Carolina Hurricanes tonight in Game 3 at Bridgestone Arena. Puck drop at 6 o'clock, pregame at 5 o'clock here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Joe, the standings remain as such. You and the listeners tied with 7 correct answers. No goals the other night, so nobody gets on the board. Ryan Porth has vaulted up with 5 correct answers. Robbie Stanley remains at 2 here in the competition. So lots of work left for me to do in this competition, and we'll see what the Predators are able to do tonight and respond. This could be my last shot tonight. We'll see what happens for the Predators to respond on that front tonight at Bridgestone Arena. With that in mind, let's go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Josh from Ashland City, who is today's participant in Preds Pick to Click. Josh, what's going on, man? Thanks for calling into Robby and Rexrode.
I appreciate y'all, fellas. Y'all having a good day, hopefully.
Wow, you are as well. Josh, appreciate you taking time to join us this morning. So, Josh, the Preds taking on Carolina tonight in Game 3 at home. Who is your pick to click tonight for the Predators?
Give me the captain, Roman Josi.
Roman Josi being selected by Josh. I like that. Roman Josi, 8 shots on goal in Game 2. I like it. Josh, thanks for joining us, man. We appreciate it.
He already hung up.
So Josh selecting Roman Josi in the competition today, which leaves the door open for me, Joe Rexrode.
I was just going to say, the one, big boy, key guy, mainstay that to me really stepped up in Game 2. He's trending toward finding the back of the net here.
He is, and he played really well in Game 2. I have the first pick between the 3 of us today in the competition. I think you know where I'm going. Give me number 9, Philip Forsberg. I will lead us off on that front. Forsberg hits the post, scores in Game 1, hits the post in Game 2. I think he'll find the back of the net tonight in Game 3. Give me Philip Forsberg for the Predators. Ryan Porth, you are up next. Your pick to click for tonight's game against Carolina.
So I have a decision to make. So I could double down on what I said on Call Your Shot Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
With 28. Or I could try to win Call Your Shot Friday and get closer to Joe. I'm coming for you, Joe, and pick to click.
Yeah, yes.
I could go
so
either way.
What are you going to do?
Give me Luke Cunnin. Luke Cunnin is going to score tonight. He has been close on that second line. He's been by far the best player in this series. Give me Cunnin.
So Ryan Porth selecting Luke Cunnin in the competition today. So Josh selecting Roman Josi, Robbie Stanley going with Philip Forsberg, Ryan Porth selecting Luke Cunnin in the competition. Joe Rexrode, the final pick in today's version of Preds Pick to Click, brought to you by New Amsterdam Vodka. Which direction are you going today with your final pick?
What did I say for Call Your Shot? Who did I have winning in overtime?
You had it was Duchesne.
Yeah. So that's another. So I've got a decision too. Do I double down on that, or do I, try to do? I'm going to do the same thing Porth did. Give me 92. I think 92 is going to be very aggressive in being around the net tonight and just being more of a physical presence. I think he pops one home off a rebound. Give me 92, Ryan Johansson.
I like that. Ryan Johansson selected by Joe Rexrode. So that is today's version of Preds Pick to Click, brought to you by New Amsterdam Vodka. Josh, our listener, selecting the captain, Roman Josi. Ryan Porth selecting Luke Cunnin in the competition today. I go with Philip Forsberg. Joe Rexrode selecting Ryan Johansson. Gentlemen, good luck. Joe, it's been a minute since you've converted in this competition. You and the listeners been hung at 7 for a long time.
We've been trying to let you guys get into this, but Porth, you're not coming for me if the team in question doesn't score at all. So they need to start there. But it's been made a little bit interesting. And Robby, if they get to the Stanley Cup final, I think you've got a shot, man.
Thank you.
Joe,
I appreciate that.
Joe, you're right. I'm not coming for you. I'm cunning for you tonight.
All right, that's probably the last word we need to hear out of Ryan Porth today on the show. Well done. Very nicely done. So, Joe, as you look at the lineup heading into Game 3, what changes do you think could be made? We have obviously a health situation with Callie Yarncroke, misses Game 2 because of a non-COVID illness. If he's healthy, I would expect he'll be back in there. I have not been impressed with Victor Arvidsson so far. I was not impressed with Eli Tolvanen in Game 2 either. What do you think this lineup could look like tonight for the Predators as they return home in Game 3?
I don't have a great feel for it. You know, I felt pretty good about like Tolvanen getting a crack last game after Game 1, and you know, not having both Olivier and Trennan in. I said this, I think yesterday. This is the game where actually I could make the case for John Hines to basically do what he did in Game 1, load up and just try to, you know, just be as physical as possible, and again control the matchups with last change. I mean, I think you can, you know, if there's something you like in that regard, I think you should feel better about doing it at home. But I can make the case for Rocco Grimaldi to give you a spark.
Yeah.
I mean, is that not something that should at least be talked about? I can't imagine it wouldn't be. I don't have a great feel for it, but and we talked about this too, the idea of Duchesne up there with those guys. If Tolvanen's out, I think if Tolvanen's in, he's with those guys. I think if Tolvanen is out, you know, the idea of Duchesne up there instead of Arvidsson, and maybe even Arvidsson out of the lineup, is also worth discussing.
I think it is too. Like I will say this, based on what I've seen the first 2 games out of Victor Arvidsson, I would be more confident in Rocco Grimaldi right now than I would be Victor Arvidsson. I really would. I mean, I think the speed element that Grimaldi brings, I just don't know that Arvidsson has that gear to his game right now. And if he doesn't have that gear, I'm not sure what Arvidsson's bringing throughout the rest of the lineup and throughout, you know, the rest of the ice that works for you, that's good for you. Like if you're moving Arvidsson off that top line and down to the third line, and he doesn't have the speed to go along with it for whatever reason, what's he really bringing to the table at that point? Like this is a really interesting time for Victor Arvidsson because he has been so important for them over the years. He has been such a big part of what they've been able to accomplish. And right now, it just doesn't seem like he's the same guy. For whatever reason, if it's the injuries that have added up or if he's just lost a step, I don't know what it is, but it just doesn't seem like he's the same guy to the point where right now I would honestly be more comfortable with Rocco Grimaldi. I really would.
Another thing, and some of our listeners have brought this up, and I think it's a really good point, and commenters on Stories in the Athletic too. What about Cunnin on the power play? Does that not seem like something worth exploring?
Well, it would certainly get him on the ice a lot more than he's been the last couple of games. I mean, he's gotten lost out there because he's not killing penalties and he's not on the power play either. I mean, look, at this point, I don't know why you wouldn't try him on the power play. He's been hot coming down the stretch of the regular season. You know, he's got good speed to his game, and more than anything, like he's not afraid to go in there and mix it up. I would not be opposed to trying Luke Cunnin on the power play.
So, what do you guys think it will be when it comes down to the forwards that we aren't sure if they're in or out? What do you guys think it will be?
Well, I don't know what Yarncroke's health situation is, but I'm going to operate under the assumption that he'll be good to go.
Yeah.
And to me, if he is, there's no way they're taking him out of the lineup. So Yarncroke will be back in there. I really do think the decision comes down to Tolvanen and Arvidsson. I really do. My guess is Arvidsson remains in there and Tolvanen's out. I think Tolvanen could be out tonight.
And so Arvidsson just up with Johansson and Forsberg.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think, Porth?
I would probably say Tolvanen. Under this scenario that you're talking about, I would probably say Tolvanen gets scratched. I mean, we talked about it yesterday. He did not look all that great in Game 2, to almost put it nicely. And Arvidsson has been struggling. He doesn't look the same, but I can see them keeping him in there, but maybe putting him on a different line. see if that gets him going and split up Jofa.
Listen to the game every weekday for your chance to win $1,000. It's the game's 1K payday presented by Kentucky Kingdom and Hurricane Bay. Listen for keywords at 9, noon, and at 3 o'clock. And when you hear it, go to thegamenashville.com and enter the keyword for a shot at $1,000. When we come back, we'll be joined by Scott Burnside from The Athletic. We'll look ahead to Game 3 between the Predators and the Hurricanes with him. Also look at the other action around the Stanley Cup playoffs as well. All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode live from the Wholesaling Studios, powered by RumbleOn.com here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in. Final hour of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porter with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Looking ahead to Game 3 for the Predators taking on the Carolina Hurricanes tonight at Bridgestone Arena. And to help us talk about that and more, we welcome in our good friend Scott Burnside from The Athletic on our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Scott, what's going on, man? Thanks for taking time to join us.
Always happy to join you guys. And I was saying to Ryan just before he came on, got a good view of the Vanderbilt football field and going to take in Game 3 tonight. And I was down at Bridgestone yesterday and talking to some of the folks from the Preds. And I said, the last time I was here, there was just a giant hole down there. Now it's a full-fledged thing at 5th and Broadway. So very impressive. And we'll see if the hometown team can sort of match that kind of impressiveness with a critical win tonight. I mean, needless to say, you can't afford to go down 3-0. So this is pretty much as dire as it gets in terms of must win. So fun to see tonight. I can't wait.
It's going to be awesome. It's got part of what's been fun so far anyway in Carolina has been the atmosphere. Obviously, an estimated 12,000 fans in the building in Carolina. That expected to be roughly the same tonight at Bridgestone Arena as well. When you watch that and then kind of contrast it with what's going on in Canada right now and some other parts of the United States as well, how cool has it been to see the crowd back in the building in Carolina? And how cool do you think it's going to be to experience that tonight at Bridgestone Arena?
Yeah, I believe it's technically 12,135 tonight, if I have my numbers. And so, and I think it's important for the Preds to, to show that, hey, we're going to be a little bit better than Carolina in terms of the crowd support. And I mean, to your point, I mean, part of what's been so great about the playoffs so far is the level of competition and some of the unexpected things that we've seen. But for me, it's to turn on the TV and see, whether it's, I think they had 9,000 in South Florida for games 1 and 2. I don't know what they had in Tampa last night, but I saw them lined up outside Amalie Arena. And, as you mentioned, the 12,000 even in PNC Arena in Raleigh, and you go across the U.S.-based teams, and it helps to remind us that, we're not done with the pandemic, right? Like, and it's, it's going to take a long, long time to, we always talk about returning to normal, but this is a huge step, and it's a huge step for a community. It's a huge step for the team, or the teams that are involved. I think it's a critically important part of, sort of turning a corner and having, that sort of community feel, that a hometown hockey team in the playoffs brings. And so I think it's important. And you mentioned Canada, of course. I feel badly for them. The Leafs in Montreal haven't played in the playoff series since '79, and they play in front of an empty barn in Toronto last night. And, it's got to be deflating. And even though they played all season this way, it has to be disappointing for them to see what's going on in other arenas in the United States and know that they're not quite there yet. And I know Montreal, they're hoping to have a small number by Game 6. I think the question was at the start of the series, well, will there be a Game 6? Well, Montreal took the first game from the Leafs last night, so I think you can pretty much bank on a Game 6 in that series. And so, good for the fans in Quebec to be able to see the Canadians if it turns out that way. So it's, I think it's important all across the board. And again, I'm looking forward to, what the vibe is like inside that arena. It's been a long time since I've actually sat inside an NHL arena and watched an NHL game.
Scott, what do you think of the Nashville Predators in terms of roster and just state of the franchise right now relative to the rest of the league?
Well, that's a mouthful, isn't it? Holy cow! We got an hour to discuss here. No, you know what? I think we probably talked about it down the stretch, and I thought the Preds were one of the feel-good stories of the NHL, and I give David Poile all kinds of credit. How often we did we talk in the weeks before the trade deadline about, the Preds going into full scale sell mode, and Matthias Ekholm and Eric Holland, who else was going out the door? Michael Granlund, even discussion of Philip Forsberg. And, so I think the fact that the team righted the ship, I thought for me what was so impressive was that they really changed the style of play. They played a very physical, hard style. It reminded me of, the Preds back in the day when they didn't have a ton of money to spend on a roster and they had to grind it out every night. And, so that was impressive. And I really thought the fact that they played Carolina and played them so well at the end of the regular season, I was curious to see whether they could carry that into the first round of the playoffs. I think what you've seen in the first two games, the Carolina is just the real deal, right? They're just a really good team. They're exceptionally well built, and I don't think it detracts from what the Predators have accomplished thus far. The fact that they're down 2-0. I mean, what's the old saying? It's not a series until someone wins on the road. So, the challenge is to hold serve now. But, I like a lot of what I've seen with the Predators. And, we've seen it. I think there were a lot of people, people were questioning, should Rocco Grimaldi be in? What about Tolvanen? And, I thought he looked a little tentative in game two. But that, first time in the playoffs, and that's, again, go back to the crowds and what that vibe is like. Those are learning moments for a young player. And, I think the roster is an interesting one, because I think with their success really came from a lot of their role players and the way they approached the game that was different before. And now it's the onus is really on some of those higher paid, higher skill players, because you can't grind your way to a series victory over Carolina. So you got to score some goals. It goes without saying, you got to get something from your power plays. I mean, it's so emotionally draining when you are repeatedly unsuccessful with the man advantage. So, and I haven't followed it closely enough to know exactly the manpower that John Hines is using, but there's a lot of pressure on everyone now to capitalize on those moments starting tonight to make this a series, and I think rightfully so. The pressure has to be on those high end guys, the leaders of the team, because that's what they get paid for, and they got to start to deliver the goods tonight.
Scott Burnside from The Athletic on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And Scott, the opponent for the Predators, the Carolina Hurricanes, obviously they've been fantastic all season long. As you start to look around the rest of the league with the Colorados and the Tampa Bays and, the Torontos of the world, where does Carolina stack up, in your opinion, in terms of the top Stanley Cup contenders?
Yeah, well, I don't want to anger too many Preds fans, but I had Carolina at the start of the season as my Stanley Cup pick, and I didn't waver from that at the start of the playoffs.
Impressive.
And I just thought that they were really built for this kind of competition. And I think, we'll find out, but my guess is they would have learned a lot from really being beaten soundly by Boston in the first round of the playoffs. I mean, they had an easy time against the Rangers in the play-in series, but and sort of going back to the point about the Predators, in that series against Boston, the big guys did not. It wasn't great. It wasn't a great series for Dougie Hamilton or Sebastian Aho. Andrei Svechnikov, I thought, hit a wall in that series. So I think that's the kind of thing that you learn from. And I think what you've seen in the first two games is why I believe that they are a Stanley Cup caliber team, and that's they're very opportunistic. Their special teams is outstanding, and they come in waves. And so even if you're close, you need to get a power play goal, and who knows what happens. But the Canes never waver, right? They just come at you in waves. They're built to roll four lines. You look at their ice time when they're playing well; it's very evenly distributed. Top 6D and the four lines. It's really it's sort of uniform amount of ice time when they're really rolling. So that's why I like them. And they've got some great skill. Aho, Svechnikov, and Nick Cash, whose name I never quite pronounced properly. Teuvo Teravainen. It's chock full of talent, but they play hard. They play. They love Rod Brind'Amour. I think you can see that in the way they play. To me, he's one of the best coaches in the NHL, and they got a lot going on. I'm curious to see how the goaltending holds up, but geez, looked pretty good through the first two games, I would say.
Sorry, go ahead, Robby. Sorry.
All good. So, Scott, last thing for you here. As you look around the rest of the league, what series is the most intriguing for you as we kind of head down the stretch here?
Wow. I kept looking. I was out doing some interviews last night, and I was trying. My son was texting me the updates on the Florida-Tampa game, and that series has had a ton, right? That first game was epic, and the Bolts coming back and winning late, and then absolutely critical situation for the Panthers, even worse situation than the Preds because, of course, they lost 2 at home to start the series, and then to win that game last night, coming from behind late and then winning it in overtime was absolutely critical for them. I love what Joel Quenneville does, right? He's not afraid. He's bounced his goalies a couple of times. Keith Yandel's not in the lineup, and Hall of Fame coach. He's not playing people because they have a big contract. He's playing them because he hopes to get a victory in the series. And with Tampa, a lot of sort of controversy with Nikita Kucherov and Steven Stamkos coming back and hitting the ground running after in Kucherov's case being out for the entire season and on LTIR. So the Bullets are still the real deal, and I actually picked Florida to win that series because, and so we'll see if they can continue, sort of build the momentum from a critical win last night. But that series has had a lot going on, pretty nasty stuff, and the first ever Battle of Florida. Yeah, so I would say that's the one I've been most interested in outside of Nashville, Carolina.
Scott Burnside from The Athletic has been our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. Scott, really appreciate you taking time to join us this morning, and have fun tonight at Bridgestone Arena. Looking forward to it.
All right. Take care, guys.
Absolutely. Scott Burnside from The Athletic, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. When we come back, we'll continue the discussion on the Predators. Got a lot of your thoughts to get to on our text line as well. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. By the way, Smashville, did I mention the Game Nashville and Dos Equis is bringing the party to you? Text the word GOLDEN to 615-737-1025. That's GOLDEN to 615-737-1025 to qualify for the ultimate in-home watch party. One lucky fan is getting tickets to a playoff game at Bridgestone Arena as well. So get a dose, Smashville. You must be 21 or older to enter and win. Make sure you enjoy Dos Equis responsibly. Joe, game 3 tonight for the Predators against the Hurricanes. And one thing that I need to see from the Predators right out of the jump tonight, you expect the energy to be there. You expect the crowd to provide a boost for this team. I got to have somebody make a play. Got to have somebody bear down early in this game. I mean, that's – the Predators, to this point, you got the first goal of the game in game 1. Forsberg gets that. It doesn't last very long. You're not playing with a lead very long. You're not able to get into your style and how you want to play. We talked about this earlier in the show. I think the Predators are going to come out with a lot of energy. I think they're going to come out and they're going to look good. They're going to play well in the opening 10 minutes of the game. And I think you almost, to a certain degree, you expect that. If you're Carolina, you got to try to weather through that and navigate through it. It doesn't mean a whole lot if you don't score. I need somebody on the Predators to bear down and make a play. And look, they've had some chances in this. I think back to Duchesne. I went back and watched this play a couple of times yesterday. Just the double clutch that happened there, the indecision. I think there's been a little bit too much of that and trying to make the perfect play if you're the Predators. Just let the thing rip. Go to the front of the net, get to a rebound, collapse. That's how you have to score goals at times in the playoffs. But I think there's been a little bit too much hesitation in their game at times in the offensive zone. And I get why. Carolina is really good defensively. They make you work for everything you get, and you feel like you've worked so hard to get there and to get your opportunity. Maybe you don't get back there again, so you're trying to make that perfect shot. I think sometimes that causes way more harm than good against a team like Carolina. I need somebody to get in there in the first 10 minutes of this game and just let the thing rip and see where the chips fall.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that the passion, the intensity, all that stuff, it's a given that they're going to have that. They need more poise, I think, especially in the offensive zone. Like they were, like the territorial battle 5-on-5 was definitely better from game 1 to game 2. But I think you're also right that they didn't have tons of absolute grade A chances. And I think there were opportunities for more of them in the last game. So that's execution. That's tiny little things, and that's timing and just having a feel for when to do, one choice or the other choice. I think Carolina gets a lot of credit for that. I think Carolina, take away the penalty kill where they're just, it's like they're going 6-on-5 instead of 4-on-5 against you. That's what it looks like, but I think even just in general, they have got the Predators feeling it. So they're playing their guts out. They did better things, but those little moments of execution are so key. So poise is also a part of the formula tonight. It's got to be better. And to make those skilled plays to convert. And, the power play already. The first time the Preds go on the power play tonight, it already feels just like 2019 where it's like a groan more than, but so there's that, but there's also the fact that the Preds haven't scored in 4 periods. And you want that to end as quickly as you can end it, because that starts becoming a thing too. And people can talk about blocking everything out and all that. That's a big part of this, but you can't totally block it out. And so they need to end some things. Get a power play goal in the first 5 minutes would probably be best case scenario.
Let's go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Ryan from Hermitage, who wants to weigh in today here on the show. Ryan, thanks for calling in to Robby and Rexrode.
Morning, guys. I need to come out tonight quickly, and you guys talking about lines before. How about this for a lineup change? If Jan Cook can't go tonight, you leave Tollivan in. But how about you pull Arvidsson and Richardson out, and you put in Rocco, and you put in Tomasino? You keep pulling him up, putting him down all season long. You know what? It's game 3. You're down 2-0 in the series. You need something new. Why don't you put Tomasino in to see what he can do in this lineup? Maybe he might be a spark and get something to do in the Govic since, he played it with him in Chicago beginning of the season, so he may know how to beat him quickly. And also another thing is Kunin had his chances plenty of times, and he's on the power play. Pull Gramlin off the top power play unit, put Gramlin on the second unit, and put Kunin on the top. And let's see if maybe Kunin could tip in some of these shots from Forsberg and Yossi and Tolman. See, maybe that'll do something instead of having Johansson try to do everything in front of net.
Hey, thanks for the call, Ryan. We appreciate it. Joe, I look at the situation they're in. They're down 0-2. I don't think right now is a very good, let's see what we have in Philip Tomasino opportunity. Like, this is a heck of a spot to put your top prospect in at this point. Now, I get the appeal there. He's got a lot of ability. He's been great this year at the AHL level. I don't think down 0-2 in a playoff series is the best time for, hey, let's throw Tomasino in there and see what he can do. Now, maybe if you get down 0-3, maybe so. But I don't think right now that's going to be an option the Predators consider.
No, it's not going to happen. It shouldn't happen. If they get shut out tonight, sure. Go Tomasino, go Pitlick, go whatever else you can come up with and just change it all out, man. But, yeah, at this point, John Hines has enough tough choices, and I don't think Tomasino would rise to the level of a tough choice. They have guys in this lineup who can make things happen. They've got to do it. And I can't wait to see what he's going to do with this lineup. Our buddy Jeremy K. Gover just tweeted out his lineup. He's on the same page as us with the Arvidsson thing. I have my doubts that it's actually going to happen.
Agreed.
But I think there's a case to be made.
Well, I think there is too. Like I said, if he's not bringing the speed game to the table, he's not really bringing much to the table out there in this series. So I'm fascinated to see what they're going to do on that front. ESPN 94.9 is the home for Nashville Sounds baseball. Tonight, the Sounds take on the Gwinnett Stripers, the AAA affiliate of the Atlanta Braves at First Horizon Park. Pregame with Jeff Him begins at 6:20, and first pitch is at 6:35. Nashville Sounds baseball on ESPN 94.9, presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans and by 312 Pizza Company as well. The Sounds taking on the Stripers again on tomorrow. First pitch at 6:35. Pregame at 6:20, and then again on Sunday as well, first pitch at 2:05. So make sure you keep that in mind all weekend long here on ESPN 94.9. When we come back, it's time for weekend winners here on the program. We got a lot of activity locally here this weekend. We'll get to all that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
It's time to pick some winners. We hope. Robby and Rexrode have weekend winners for you. Now
on ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
And it is time for weekend winners here on Robby and Rexrode, ESPN 102.5 The Game. There's a lot of activity this weekend. 2 games with the Predators, the Warriors, and the Grizzlies in a play-in game tonight. Nashville SC taking on Austin FC as well. We got a lot to get to coming up here on Weekend Winners. But first, Joe Rexrode, let's get to the recap of what happened last week. Where do we stand in the competition today?
Guys, it's getting ugly. I don't know any other way to say it. And at some point, my name should just be Joey the Greek. I think I need an official name change. But real fast, I went 4-2 with my lot, got 5 points. Mark Howard came in, Robby, and he went 3-3 for you. Got you 3 points. He missed on the Yankees as his lock, given 1.5. with Kluber, and he also missed so close. He had Pelicans +2 versus the Warriors. I had the Warriors -2, and they won by 3. So it was very close. But you gained ground on Porth. Ryan Porth, this is the theme again and again. You went 1-5. Now it was your lock, and it was the Wizards, the Cavs -8.5 against the Wizards. You win on the NBA. You lose on the over-under with the Bruins Caps. You lose on the over-under with the Dodgers Marlins and all the other stuff that we picked together. NBA, man. Go with the NBA. But, I'm not here to tell anybody how to do their business. So the standings right now, I'm 45-27, 55 points, 10-2 on locks. Porth, you have fallen to 35-36, 40 points, 5-7 on your locks. Robby, creeping up there. 31-41, 36 points, 5-7 on your locks, just 4 points behind Porth.
All righty. The standings are getting tight between me and Porth. We've got to create a little bit less distance between ourselves and Joe Rexrode. So without further ado, go ahead, Porth.
This sounds like Preds pick to click, the standings throughout the entire season until here, in the last couple weeks.
Yeah, I don't really like the way that this thing is trending here on Weekend Winners. So with that in mind, Game 3 between the Predators and the Hurricanes taking place tonight at Bridgestone Arena. Joe Rexrode, we start with you, the money line. Who do you have in Game 3 between the Predators and the Hurricanes?
Preds, lock.
Oh, going with a lock off the bat.
Wow.
It means too much. They've come too far. They've got more going for them than, it may appear at this point. I think they rise up with a big-time performance tonight.
Ryan Porth, Predators and Hurricanes, Game 3. Who do you have tonight?
I'm going with the Nashville Predators as well. It is not quite my lock, but the Preds.
Give me Carolina in Game 3 between the Predators and the Hurricanes. I thought the Predators had a shot in Game 2 with the power play opportunities, and you let Carolina off the hook. And when you let teams off the hook, generally speaking, they tend to make you pay. So give me Carolina tonight in Game 3. All right, Game 4 between the Predators and the Hurricanes. Ryan Porth, we begin with you on this one. Who do you have between Carolina and Nashville in Game 4?
Hurricanes. I think if
for Ryan Porth.
Under the scenario in which I have picked the Preds, I think the Canes would respond with a close win on Sunday.
Joe Rexrode, Game 4 between the Predators and the Hurricanes coming up on Sunday. Who do you have on the money line?
Same thing. I think it's a response tonight. And then it's the better team asserting itself Sunday.
Give me the Predators on Sunday in Game 4. I think they stay alive. They avoid being swept. They take this thing back to Carolina with a win in Game 4 on Sunday. So give me the Predators to get it done in Game 4. All right, the Memphis Grizzlies taking on the Golden State Warriors tonight in a play-in game for the last playoff spot in the Western Conference in the NBA. I will start on this one. The Warriors are 5-point favorites in this game. Give me the Warriors minus the 5 in this game. I think the Grizzlies keep it close. I said on Call Your Shot Friday, I believe the Grizzlies are going to be leading at halftime in this game. But at the end of the day, I think Steph Curry is just too good. I think he's too much down the stretch for the Grizzlies. They pull away at the end of the fourth quarter. Give me Warriors minus 5 in this game against Memphis. Joe Rexrode, Warriors and Grizzlies. Warriors a 5-point favorite in this game.
I already called my shot on the Grizz outright, so give me the Grizz. I'll take the 5 points. I love Steph Curry. He's amazing. And he looked a little worn out to me late in that Lakers game with some of those turnovers and mistakes. I think the Grizzlies pull the shocker tonight.
Ryan Porth, the Grizzlies and the Warriors favored by 5 points in this game.
Well, yesterday this line was at 3.5. So I'm curious as to why it's jumped to 5. So I'm going to go with the Warriors. I think Vegas may know something. Give me the Warriors. As much as I want to see the Grizzlies win, I think the Warriors at home get it done and pull away late in the fourth quarter.
So Porth taking the Warriors as well, -5 against the Grizzlies. Nashville SC taking on Austin FC this weekend on the money line here. Joe Rexrode, we begin with you. And remember, on these picks, you can go win, you can go loss, or you can go draw for Nashville SC as well. Who do you have between Nashville SC and Austin FC?
And draw has been very, very good to me this year.
It has.
However, I'm straying from picking a draw every week. I'm going Nashville SC. Coming home, they expect a crowd more than 15K, and I think they're going to respond and get a big win. Nashville SC.
This is my lock of the week. Give me Nashville SC to win at home. The crowd being a big part of it. I just think they're a better team than Austin FC. I think they'll assert their dominance. They'll control the play the whole time. Give me Nashville SC and make it my lock. Ryan Porth, Nashville SC and Austin FC money line coming up this weekend.
Well,
who you got?
Let's make it 3 in a row. I'm going with Nashville SC as well. I don't think I've picked against Nat. Well, I did go with Salt Lake last week, so just caught myself there. But Nashville SC back at home, like y'all said, big crowd. Go with the boys in gold.
So now we get to our individual picks here on Weekend Winners. Ryan Porth, we begin with you. Your first individual pick of the weekend.
So I'm looking at Game 4 tonight between Washington and Boston. Give me the Washington Capitals plus 1.5 in Boston. I mean, every game's gone to overtime. I expect a pretty big response from the Caps tonight after just a brutal overtime loss the other night. So give me the Caps.
Give me in my first individual pick the Colorado Avalanche -1.5 against the Blues. Colorado, to me, seems like a team that is on a mission. They know they're the better team against St. Louis, and they played that way through the first 2 games. I think St. Louis is going to put up a fight, but I just don't think they match up well with Colorado at all. Give me Colorado -1.5 against the Blues tonight. Joe Rexrode, your first individual pick.
Guess what? I'm going NBA.
I'm sure you are.
Very, very good to me as well. And, Robbie, I'm going with your guys. I know you're not all very optimistic about the Heat beating the Bucks, but I think in Game 1, they're going to make a little bit of a statement. They're getting 4.5 points. Give me the Heat and the 4.5.
I like it. The Heat and the 4.5 against the Bucks in Game 1. I will begin the last round of our individual picks here on Weekend Winners. I'm going to the NBA as well. Give me the Clippers -5.5 against the Dallas Mavericks. Clippers kind of shut things down the stretch. Ty Lue pretty upset in his comments last week, saying he doesn't care about what people on the outside think. They're trying to get healthy for the playoffs. I think they will be healthy. I think they'll be ready to go. Give me the Clippers -5.5 in Game 1 against the Dallas Mavericks. Joe Rexrode, your final individual selection here on Weekend Winners.
Let's go head-to-head on that one. Give me the Mavs. Yeah. Give me the points. Porzingis going off, baby, all over the floor. I like the Mavs. I'll take those points.
I like it. Ryan Porth, your final selection of the weekend here for Weekend Winners.
So I'm not going to go into the NBA. I am going to the Diamond, and there is a just salivating matchup tomorrow in baseball. So this is the Saturday matchup between the Indians and the Twins. Give me the Indians -1.5 at home with Shane Bieber on the mound. The Twins are awful. The Indians have Bieber, not Justin Bieber, on the mound, and I would not be shocked if Bieber throws the 200th no-hitter of the MLB season so far.
Certainly seem to be trending pretty highly in the direction of no-hitters as of late.
Yes, for sure. And also this is my lock.
Guaranteed.
Very nicely done. So that is today's edition of Weekend Winners. Lots of things going on around here locally over the weekend. Gentlemen, good luck. We'll see what happens in this matchup over the weekend. And speaking of things going around here locally over the weekend, we have our first edition of Nashville SC Pick to Click, brought to you by Camarena Tequila. Coming up next here on the program, be the first caller at 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025 to guess the goal scorer for Nashville SC in their matchup against Austin FC coming up this weekend. If you get it right, you'll win a prize pack, brought to you by Camarena Tequila as well. We'll do that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 News Code Red meteorologist Dan Guthrie. Temperatures continue to warm to the mid and upper 80s for us this afternoon under mostly sunny skies. We hit 90 tomorrow and we stay there for the first half of next week.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
It's a seller's market, so why aren't more people selling?
It's hooked in and headed in. Delirium. Yonder Cadiz.
Who's going to find the back of the net in the upcoming Nashville SC match? Robby and Rexrode make their picks to click for the match and welcome a listener to do the same. NSC Pick to Click on ESPN 1025 The Game is brought to you by Camarena Tequila.
And it is the first edition of Nashville SC Pick to Click here on Robby and Rexrode, brought to you by Camarena Tequila. Nashville SC taking on Austin FC at Nissan Stadium on Sunday. Pregame at 7:45. The match starts at 8 o'clock on ESPN 94.9, your official English radio home of the Nashville Soccer Club. Now, Joe Rexrode, I'm interested to see how this goes here because, as we know, a little bit less scoring in soccer than there is in hockey when we start to pick these games. So this could be more of a challenge for us as well. You lead us off in the inaugural edition of Nashville SC Pick to Click, brought to you by Camarena Tequila. Nashville SC taking on Austin FC on Sunday night. Who is your pick to click for Nashville SC coming up on Sunday?
Oh, and by the way, Heidi from Dixon has already said on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, that I'm going to lose. So
that was her
Heidi,
call your shot Friday pick. Yes,
that was her call your shot. So hey, good luck with that. Not losing much in anything these days, but hey, Heidi, I like that you called. That is a called shot because it's a very unlikely occurrence. Yeah, give me Randall Leal.
No further explanation. Just give me Randall Leal. Okay, we'll do that.
He's my pick to click. What do you want? What else you want?
We'll give you Randall Leal, that's for sure. Ryan Porth, you are up next in the inaugural edition of Nashville SC Pick to Click. Who is your pick to click for Nashville SC this weekend against Austin FC?
See, I was going to pick Leal, but no more. And now I'm sad.
There you go.
Give me Yonder Cadiz.
Okay.
Give me Yonder Cadiz.
Yonder Cadiz, the selection from Ryan Porth.
He scores a big goal Sunday night against Austin. Let's say the game winner.
Oh, the game winner for Yonder Cadiz as well. So not only Porth kind of taking this style and Preds Pick to Click too, talking about not only who's going to score, but when they're going to score it and how they're going to score it. I like that as well.
You do the same?
Give me Walker Zimmerman. I know, I do, and I will do the same here as well. Give me Walker Zimmerman. Ooh. He's only got 3 shots this year, 2 of which have come on target. But I think he's going to be a little bit more involved in the attack coming up this weekend. I think he gets a couple of shots, and I think he converts on one. Walker Zimmerman scores the opening goal of the game for Nashville SC against Austin FC coming up this weekend. Give me Walker Zimmerman in this competition. Going out on a bit of a limb there.
Ani Muhtar disrespect.
I know, but I got a gut feeling. And you know how my gut feelings tend to work out here on the show. Not very
great.
Well. Not great. That is the first edition of Nashville SC Pick to Click, brought to you by Camarena Tequila. And speaking of Nashville SC, we've got some tickets to give away. Be caller 5 at 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Caller 5 will win a pair of tickets to see Nashville SC take on Austin FC coming up this weekend, 8 o'clock on Sunday night at Nissan Stadium. Joe Rexrode, you had a life experience last night, just watching some kids and some graduation ceremonies as well. Teachers, I know you wanted to give a shout out to some teachers that you know and love. So now the floor is turned over to you.
Well, thank you. I want to give a shout out to all of them.
Sure.
It came through for me last night. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny, like, you know, in our day, or at least in my day, like graduation was high school, but now it's elementary school. We've had preschool graduations, elementary, middle school. So I have my youngest 2 graduating from elementary school, or I guess being promoted, graduating from middle school. And the middle school ceremony last night, our principal, Dr. Davenport, who's fantastic, was really good in talking, and she started talking about like the past year with these teachers. And I mean, I thought about it, and she got a little emotional, and I'm thinking about it. It's like, it is incredible. Listen, if you're a parent out there, maybe you're better than me or us, but there's a certain level of pawning off of your kids already that go on to the teachers and coaches of the world. They don't get enough respect or appreciation. But this year, when you got some kids over here on Zoom and now the Wi-Fi's gone, oh, the kid went to get a snack, went to the bathroom, you got some kids in the classroom or what? I mean, so challenging. And so I just want to shout out all the teachers and coaches, but the teachers, especially this year, just to go through what they did. My personal experience, just incredible at Mill Creek Elementary and Mill Creek Middle School and Nolensville High School. And specifically, Mrs. Peterzak, who is Brennan's math teacher, probably sent me the best note I've ever read as a parent. And Beth Colwick, music teacher at Mill Creek Elementary. She is a listener of the show. She's a huge sports fan, Preds, Titans, Vanderbilt fan. We're moving on now from elementary. We're out of elementary school for good, which is somewhat emotional too. We're going to miss her, but Miss Beth, as everyone knows her, is just fantastic. And so I just want to shout them out.
Absolutely. Very well said. And, I think teachers go underappreciated in normal times, but even more so this past year. I think it's been pretty highlighted, the importance that they have in our lives. And you talk about a challenging set of circumstances for all of us this past year. Teachers certainly no exception to that. So very well done by you and very well done by teachers throughout our area and throughout our country as we've dealt with what we've dealt with over the course of the past year plus at this point. Joe, game 3 tonight between the Predators and the Hurricanes. You're taking the Preds tonight. You feel confident in the Preds tonight. Where does your confidence come from? What do you expect to see out of this Predators team tonight as they look ahead to game 3 against Carolina?
Well, we see this happen in series, a fair amount. And we also see sweeps sometimes, and that's certainly on the table. But I think the Preds can hang better than an 8-2 scoreboard through 2 games suggests. I think there actually was some progress and then some very much not progress in other areas. They got to get it together. They got to have not just intensity and all that. They got to have better poise. But I think there are good enough players on this team who have enough pride, as Terry Chris was talking about earlier, to respond. And I think I see that happening tonight.
It's going to be interesting. I picked Carolina in our weekend winner segment. I mean, I don't feel great about it. Like, I don't really know what's going to happen tonight. I mean, this is an environment at Bridgestone Arena that I think we know is going to be awesome tonight. I mean, the crowd's going to be rocking. You just have to find a way, if you're the Predators, to use that and not just generate momentum. You have to score. Like, you've got to be able to capitalize on these opportunities. I'm very interested to see what the power play looks like tonight. You don't even really have to score on it. Can you get set up, like one step at a time, get in the zone, get set up, generate some positive momentum? It's going to be a lot of fun tonight. I think it's going to be kind of an emotional experience, looking inside Bridgestone Arena tonight and seeing it as full as it's going to be. It's going to be awesome. We'll see whether or not the Predators can do that and can capitalize on that. But certainly, I think, Joe, they know this. It is a must-win game tonight for the Nashville Predators.
Yeah, that technically doesn't happen until, I guess, elimination. But we'll all know what the deal is if they can't get it done tonight. They got to do it.
Absolutely. So that does it for us here today on Robby and Rexrode. We'll have game 3 for you tonight here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Puck drop at 6 o'clock, pregame at 5 o'clock coming up tonight. Darren Donica Chase is coming up next. This is ESPN 102.5 The Game.